Chapter 786. Zhou Fa was frightened by the sudden appearance of the red figure. He subconsciously wanted to move away from the other party. Slap! The red figure slapped him in the face, causing his body to spin. He broke through the space and fell into the darkness. Zhou Tianhua, Ying Zhuge, Xian Xianghua, and the others were all stunned. They looked at the red figure nervously. "Who is she?" Daoya, old man, muttered, cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. No one answered him. How strong is this person to slap Zhou Fa out of pure sword heaven? They couldn't imagine or estimate the other party's purpose. If she came to help them, why didn't she show her true face? The red figure looked at them from afar without saying a word. Her head swayed slightly, as if she was looking for someone. She suddenly raised her hand, and Xian Xianghua appeared in front of her out of thin air. "Mother!" Zhou Tianhua hurriedly rushed over, wanting to save Xian Xianghua. "Don't move. This sovereign has no ill intentions." A beautiful and cold female voice sounded. Zhou Tianhua stopped and looked at her nervously. His body was tense like a fully drawn bow. "What the hell do you want?" Zhou Shaoxian asked anxiously. She had a good relationship with Xian Xianghua. They talked about everything. So, she was no less nervous than Zhou Tianhua. The red figure replied, "Nothing. She and this sovereign are fated. When the time is right, this sovereign will make her stronger. When she comes back, she will be able to protect you." After dropping this sentence, the red figure grabbed Xian Xianghua and disappeared into thin air. Zhou Tianhua's eyes widened. He was so anxious that his eyes turned red. He used the exterminating divine eyes, broke through the space, and directly escaped. "Tianhua!" Zhou Shaoxian cried out in alarm. The others immediately surrounded him. Ying Zhuge said, "I will go find him. All of you stay here. You're not allowed to leave. Otherwise, you will bear the consequences." He tore through the space and chased after Zhou Tianhua's aura. Jiang Shui clenched her hands in front of her chest. Her expression was ugly. Pure sword heaven had reached its most difficult moment. The strength of these people was insignificant. They couldn't be of any use at all. She thought of Zhou Xuanji again. Her eyes became a little moist as she murmured, "Where are you? Why haven't you come back? Are you suffering now?" She usually didn't dare to think about what Zhou Xuanji was facing. With her understanding of Zhou Xuanji, it was impossible for him to not return for a long time. However, in order to appease the others, she could only maintain her confidence in Zhou Xuanji. She would always smile and say that he would definitely come back. And when he came back, he would definitely be even more powerful. But so much time had passed. He hasn't heard anything yet. The more she thought about it, the more afraid she became. She couldn't help but cross her arms. The others were also in a state of panic, so no one noticed her condition. In the passageway between the two worlds, Zhou Xuanji stepped on a multiverse slayer sword and traveled swiftly. Ever since he had cultivated the invincible body of supremacy, he didn't feel any pressure in the passageway between the two worlds. The calamities would disappear as soon as they approached him, not harming him at all. He had never felt so relaxed before. "Haha, at this rate, we will soon be able to return to the Kunlun origin court," said Little Sovereign excitedly. He couldn't wait to see Zhou Xuanji slaughter everyone. 9 vast heavens realm cultivation, absolute invasion body, inverse chaos divine ability. On the sovereign list, who could stand against Zhou Xuanji? Zhou Xuanji, on the other hand, was not very excited. He just wanted to hurry back. The longer he stayed in the passageway between the two worlds, the more worried he was about his family. He opened his mouth and asked, "Little Sovereign, do you think what the anti-Kunlun sovereign said is the future of the Kunlun origin court?" The anti-Kunlun sovereign once said that the reason why the anti-Kunlun was lifeless was that it had gone through the dark period. All the divine ranges were killing each other and were hostile to each other. And before he left, the divine ranges of the Kunlun origin court had already started fighting. Little Sovereign smiled and said, "That's just the general trend. The biggest difference between the anti-Kunlun and the Kunlun origin court is the character of all living beings. Don't think too much. The Kunlun origin court had been like this since ancient times. Every time the sovereigns took over, they would go through a dark period. After the dark period, the Kunlun origin court will be depressed for a while. Zhou Xuanji felt that it made sense after hearing this. He stopped thinking about it. They continued moving forward. Right now, his speed was more than 100 times faster than before. With just a thought, the time and space rules wouldn't stop him. Even if he flew at full speed for a long time, he wouldn't feel tired at all. He was like a fish in water. After an unknown period of time, in Zhou Xuanji's vision, the miniature of the Kunlun origin court began to grow bigger. He was pleasantly surprised. This meant that he was already close to the Kunlun origin court. Before, he could also see the miniature of the Kunlun origin court. But no matter how he flew, the size was still the same. It made him feel powerless. He felt that no matter how he flew, it was just a mirage in front of him. He hurriedly called out to Little Sovereign. Little Sovereign flew out and said, "What's wrong?" Huh. The aura of the Kunlun origin court. After saying this, he was pleasantly surprised. After all, he also had the inverse chaos divine ability. He could see the miniature of the Kunlun origin court. He could also feel the aura of the Kunlun origin court. How much longer? Zhou Xuanji asked, suppressing his excitement. Even his voice was trembling. Little Sovereign replied excitedly, "Soon." Compared to the long journey before, the next journey could definitely be described as fast. However, for Zhou Xuanji, the further he went, the more torturous it became. The feeling of wanting to go home made him feel like he was about to explode. Only God knew how Zhou Xuanji would endure this feeling. After flying for an unknown period of time, light finally appeared in front of him. That was the exit of the passage between the two worlds. Zhou Xuanji resolutely rushed in and disappeared into the passage between the two worlds. He only felt his vision blur. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself in a vast starry sky. Dense spiritual qi and Tao energy were rushing toward him from all directions. Ha ha ha! Zhou Xuanji burst into wild laughter. His voice penetrated the universe and spread far and wide. Countless creatures were captivated by him. He was really back. He was trembling with excitement. The exterminating saint body began absorbing the great Tao of the Kunlun origin court, madly strengthening Zhou Xuanji's primordial energy. Zhou Xuanji opened his exterminating divine eyes and cast the 10,000 worlds piercer to look up. He saw the Kunlun universe. There was killing everywhere. Even some origin cities had been destroyed. It was very chaotic. He locked his gaze on the evil sky divine range. At this moment, the evil sky divine range was besieged by countless creatures. The array was on the verge of shattering. Countless corpses were floating in the nearby universe. It was like an azure battlefield. Without saying a word, Zhou Xuanji directly traveled through space and flew toward the evil sky divine range. To be precise, he was flying toward pure sword heaven. He saw Jiang Shui and the others anxiously gathering on a mountain peak. But he didn't see Xian Xianghua and Zhou Tianhua. His heart skipped a beat. His eyes were bloodshot. He didn't dare to let his imagination run wild. He could only rush over at full speed. It seems that the dark period has completely come. That's good. This is your opportunity. You can become stronger without fear. Little Sovereign said excitedly, as if he was going to show off his divine might. Chapter 787. In pure sword heaven, Jiang Shui sat at the edge of the cliff and cultivated. The others were scattered on the top of the mountain, cultivating together. The reason for this was to prevent enemies from sneaking in and launching sneak attacks. The atmosphere was silent, and everyone's expressions were ugly. Ever since Xian Xianghua was captured, Zhou Tianhua and Ing Zhuge also disappeared, causing the morale of pure sword heaven to plummet. As Zhou Xuanji's first disciple, Xiao Jinghong looked around and frowned. The current situation was not optimistic. He wanted to persuade the people around him, but he did not know where to start. At that moment, a black spatial rift appeared beside Jiang Shui. Be careful! Changxian quickly appeared beside Jiang Shui, picked her up, and prepared to dodge. In the next second, her beautiful eyes widened and a look of pleasant surprise appeared on her face. It was Zhou Xuanji. Jiang Shui turned around instinctively. When she saw Zhou Xuanji, she was stunned. The others who were about to get up were also stunned. They all felt as if they were in a dream and couldn't believe their eyes. Zhou Xuanji walked to Jiang Shui and pulled her into his arms. "Fortunately, you're fine," he whispered in her ear, and her eyes instantly reddened. She hugged him tightly and said nothing. "Master!" Northern Sword Valiant shouted excitedly and rushed over. The others were the same. With Zhou Xuanji's return, everyone's dejection was swept away. "Ancestor, you're finally back." "Father, where did you go?" "Oh my God, am I dreaming?" "That's great, Master. With you here, we can be at ease." Tanhua Prince and the Immortal World Master have been captured. You have to find them. Hearing everyone's words, Zhou Xuanji looked calm and did not reply immediately. He let go of Jiang Shui and looked at everyone. "I'm back. No one will be able to harm you anymore." He asked everyone to tell him what had happened. Everyone was talking at once, which gave Zhou Xuanji a headache. Zhou Shaoxian quickly stopped the crowd and let her speak. After an hour, Zhou Xuanji finally understood what had happened during this period of time. It had been 327 years since he left the Kunlun Origin Court. The evil sky divine range could no longer withstand the pressure and was on the verge of collapse. Beast Sovereign had gone to the Origin Court to negotiate and hadn't returned for more than 10 years, causing the evil sky divine range to panic. Fortunately, the offensive of the divine ranges had slowed down. The reason was that the divine ranges attacking the evil sky divine range had a new target. Right now, the Kunlun Origin Court was in a mess. The sovereign divine ranges and super divine ranges were fighting amongst themselves. The lower-ranked divine ranges were like soldiers working for the super divine ranges. The red figure, what does it have to do with the one I met in the passageway between the two worlds? Zhou Xuanji frowned and thought to himself. The red figure he had encountered in the passageway between the two worlds was still fresh in his memory. Zhou Shaoxian came over and asked, "Father, what's your next plan?" She looked quite expectant. After not seeing him for 300 years, she was very curious about how powerful Zhou Xuanji had become. Not only her, but the others also looked at Zhou Xuanji expectantly. In their hearts, Zhou Xuanji was definitely the most talented existence, even in the Kunlun Origin Court. "Let's kill the guy outside first," Zhou Xuanji said calmly. After that, he focused his eyes and activated the primordial chaos sword shadow. Billions of sword shadows appeared in the space around the evil sky divine range. All of them were shining with silver light. The living beings cultivating on their magic treasures all looked up. There were more than 1 billion living beings surrounding the evil sky divine range from various divine ranges. But now, the creatures here were generally not strong. They couldn't help but panic in the face of the primordial chaos sword shadow. Swish, 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 billions of sword shadows pierced down like a silver rainstorm, pouring down with the power to destroy the world. In the pure sword heaven, everyone saw Zhou Xuanji's eyes flickering with a purple glow. He looked extremely majestic. They suddenly discovered that under Zhou Xuanji's white clothes, there was a faint silver line around his neck. He looked very handsome. Jiang Shui's eyes lit up. She was very curious about what Zhou Xuanji had experienced. They could all see that Zhou Xuanji had been reborn. If Zhou Xuanji was a genius in the past, then he was now a powerful cultivator like Beast Sovereign. Zhou Shaoxian curiously asked, "Father, what are you thinking about?" Before Zhou Xuanji could answer, Chang Xian cried out in shock. "The enemies outside are all dead. How is this possible? Those sword shadows." Her little mouth was wide open. Her face was filled with disbelief. Everyone was dumbfounded upon hearing this. All dead. Sword shadows. They all turned to look at Zhou Xuanji, breathing rapidly. The corner of Zhou Xuanji's mouth rose as the purple glow in his eyes faded. A huge amount of saint energy, Tao energy, and primordial energy poured into his body, instantly turning into his own primordial energy. He suddenly had the feeling of breaking through to Origin Fusion Divine Lord. After all, he had absorbed so much cultivation, but he suppressed the urge to break through. Too much cultivation power was pouring into the Tianxia map. He smiled and said, "I've already reached the 9 vast heavens. Not only that, but my physical body has also transformed. I'm not even afraid of an origin fusion divine lord." Xiao Jinghong held back his excitement and asked, "Revered master, where did you go before?" Zhou Xuanji didn't hide anything. He told him everything that happened after he met Namatiani. However, he didn't mention Xuntang and Shun Yinxing. Every time he thought of the sisters, his heart ached. He also felt a strong sense of remorse and guilt. Anti-Kunlun, everyone fell into shock. They couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. Zhou Xiaoxian, who had a lively personality, took the lead and hugged Zhou Xuanji's right arm. She said excitedly, "Father, you are the sovereign in Anti-Kunlun. Doesn't it mean that you can also become the sovereign in the future?" The others came back to their senses and also became excited. That's right. Zhou Xuanji has a chance to become the sovereign. Once he becomes the sovereign, even the Emperor's sword court will rise. Jiang Shui, on the other hand, said with a distressed look, "You must have gone through a lot of hardships." For them, only 300 years had passed. But for Zhou Xuanji, tens of thousands of years had passed, or even longer. Ren Niming sighed and said, "This kind of good fortune is indeed the only way to become the sovereign." He was the reincarnation of destiny, but he couldn't see through Zhou Xuanji at all. Facing Zhou Xuanji, his heart was filled with awe. This awe was very strange. It made his hair stand on end, because he couldn't restrain this awe. Just like the heavenly Tao facing the great Tao, he could only be in awe. "Next, I'll find a way to find the mother and son. You all stay in pure sword heaven. I will leave my avatar here. If anything happens, I will rush back immediately," Zhou Xuanji said, glancing at everyone. Zhou Xuanji said as he looked at everyone. He looked at Jiang Shui apologetically. He had just come back and was about to leave. He felt a little sorry for her. Jiang Shui nodded and said, "You must find them and reunite. Only then will we be a family." Zhou Xuanji nodded. Just when he was about to speak, he suddenly glanced at the horizon. Chapter 788. Seeing Zhou Xuanji turn around, everyone looked back as well. A silhouette appeared on the horizon. It was Zhou Fa. His hair was disheveled, and he looked at Zhou Xuanji in shock. How is this possible? Didn't his fate already disappear? I can't see his future at all, so why did he appear again? He should have already been killed by Namatiani. Zhou Fa muttered to himself. His eyes were bloodshot. He couldn't believe his eyes. Since Zhou Xuanji's disappearance, his ambition had swelled again. He had tried every possible way to subdue Zhou Tanhua, but unfortunately, he had never succeeded. Previously, he was severely injured by the red figure, and now he was half-crippled. The red figure had injected some kind of power into him, causing his cultivation to continuously regress. Recently, he had been thinking of ways to solve this problem, but he couldn't find any. While he was in seclusion, he suddenly divined the changes in the evil sky divine range and rushed over. Zhou Xuanji looked at Zhou Fa from afar and could not help but feel curious again. Where did this brat come from? He had seen his own reversal, and his temperament was completely different from Zhou Fa's, so it was impossible for Zhou Fa to be his own reversal. Their auras were completely different, but their appearances were exactly the same. After the thought, Zhou Xuanji walked toward Zhou Fa. Zhou Fa's expression changed drastically. He immediately turned around and ran. He came here to see for himself, not to fight with Zhou Xuanji. So many creatures outside had been killed by Zhou Xuanji, let alone him. Just as he entered the spatial turbulence, Zhou Xuanji appeared behind him. His eyes gave off a violet light as he used suppressing the universe, and Zhou Fa was instantly unable to move. Damn it, Zhou Fa immediately despaired. Just as he had guessed, after not seeing Zhou Xuanji for so long, Zhou Xuanji had become much more powerful. Compared to before, he was like a completely different person. Zhou Xuanji put his hand on his shoulder and asked, "Where do you want to escape to?" Zhou Fa's body stiffened. He did not dare to turn around. Seeing how timid he was, Zhou Xuanji felt that it was quite funny. As for Zhou Fa, he didn't really hate him anymore. He had heard from the people of Pure Sword Heaven that Zhou Fa had never really harmed Pure Sword Heaven. He had just been spying on Zhou Tanhua and had always wanted to capture him. Apart from that, he did not do any other evil things to the Pure Sword Heaven. Tell me where my son is. Zhou Xuanji's tone suddenly turned cold and filled with murderous intent. Zhou Fa was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. He gritted his teeth and replied, I don't know. He was taken away by a woman who was covered in red energy. I want to find him too. Speaking of this matter, he gritted his teeth. The person he valued had been captured, and he himself had been seriously injured. His hatred for that woman had reached its peak. He had never hated someone so much. Zhou Xuanji continued to ask, Has this woman done anything else recently? Zhou Fa answered truthfully. She has already appeared more than once. She has captured a genius of each divine range. I don't know what she wants. Even old demon Soul Mover was captured by her. The Red Shadow Woman was one of the few beings that he could not see through, and he could not even see her future. Zhou Xuanji frowned. This information could not help him find the woman in red. He turned his attention back to Zhou Fa. How should I deal with this brat? He thought about it and decided not to kill Zhou Fa for now. He could see that Zhou Fa was severely injured, and the vital power in his body had been fading away. It must have something to do with the lady in red. He could use this guy to find the lady in red. How about you help me find her? Zhou Xuanji asked. Upon hearing this, Zhou Fa turned to look at him with a complicated look in his eyes. Their eyes met, and the two fell into silence. After a few breaths, Zhou Fa slowly said, If I help you find her, can you help me heal? My cultivation has been eroded by her power. His tone was calm, trying to look calm. Zhou Xuanji replied without hesitation. As long as you can find her, I will try my best to help you heal. The conflict between him and Zhou Fa was not as important as his wife and child. Okay, I will do my best to find her whereabouts. Zhou Fa left after saying this. Zhou Xuanji did not stop him and watched him disappear into the darkness. Zhou Xuanji pondered for a while before returning to Pure Sword Heaven. He left his clone, Pan Zhun, behind. If Pure Sword Heaven was in danger, he could detect it immediately through Pan Zhun. He said a few words to Jiang Shui before quickly leaving the Evil Sky Divine Range. After coming to the Kunlun universe, he looked around. Everywhere he looked was desolate. He could easily see corpses. There were creatures flying past in the distance. They were in a hurry, fearing that they would be killed if they delayed for even a moment. Zhou Xuanji used the 10,000 Worlds Piercer and scanned the worlds, trying to find the whereabouts of the woman in red. Unfortunately, it was to no avail. He didn't see the woman in red. Instead, he saw Beast Sovereign. Beast Sovereign was imprisoned in the Origin Court plane above the Divine Range. He was tied to a giant silver-white pillar. Clouds and mist were billowing under his feet. There were no other creatures or buildings within a radius of 10,000 miles. It was very desolate. Sure enough, he was caught. Zhou Xuanji frowned. Zhou Xuanji furrowed his brow. In the Kunlun Origin Court, Beast Sovereign had done him a great favor. He couldn't just ignore it. After thinking about it, he decided to act immediately. Saving Beast Sovereign would give the Evil Sky Divine Range an extra layer of protection. Although this might cause a lot of trouble, the Evil Sky Divine Range was already in a critical situation. He had killed so many creatures. There would be a lot of trouble in the future. He flew upwards. With the Extermination Saint body, he could clearly feel the existence of the space principles. With a thought, he tore open the space and leaped to Beast Sovereign's side. Teleportation. This was one of the strengths of the Extermination Saint body. He could enter a state that wasn't bound by time. Then, he could break the space and jump to another place. Then, he could jump out of the frozen time and achieve long-distance teleportation. He had comprehended this ability after leaving the Absolute Time Realm. It was all thanks to Little Sovereign's teaching. Looking at Beast Sovereign, who was hanging his head in front of him, he took out the Lesser Supreme sword and slashed, cutting off the chains on Beast Sovereign's body. Beast Sovereign slowly raised his head in surprise. When he saw Zhou Xuanji, he was immediately stunned. "How come it's you? What are you doing here?" Beast Sovereign asked. His voice was hoarse, and there were a lot of scabs on his face. "No, you're still alive." He was pleasantly surprised. After Zhou Xuanji disappeared, he flew into a rage and mobilized the evil sky divine guards to search for him. But they couldn't find him. Later, he learned that Zhou Xuanji had encountered Namitiani. Facing Namitiani, he didn't dare to say anything. After all, the evil sky divine range was besieged by various divine ranges. So, he concealed this matter and didn't tell Pure Sword Heaven. He didn't expect this kid to come back alive and save him. Zhou Xuanji said, "I am here to save you. Let's go." His eyes narrowed as he turned around and slashed with his sword. Clang! His blade was blocked by a spear. He focused his gaze and saw a silhouette holding a spear. He couldn't see its face clearly. Chapter 789. Be careful. This is the guardian spirit of the Origin Court Divine Prison. It has the cultivation of Origin Fusion Divine Lord. Beast Sovereign warned. As soon as he said this, his expression changed. "Hold on. How did this kid reach 9 vast heavens?" Beast Sovereign was shocked. "How many years has it been? Did he lose his sense of time after being locked up?" Zhou Xuanji stared at the guardian spirit. His hand holding the Lesser Supreme sword shook as he activated the Inverse Chaos Divine ability. The guardian spirit launched an attack. Surging energy erupted along the spear shaft. Boom! The guardian spirit directly exploded, turning into countless light stars, drifting above the sea of clouds. Beast Sovereign was stunned. He asked in amazement, "How did you do it?" Zhou Xuanji looked back and said, "Now is not the time to explain." He raised his left hand and used universal attraction, sucking Beast Sovereign in front of him. Then, he grabbed Beast Sovereign's shoulder and the two disappeared into thin air. They crossed space and came to the void boundary. Zhou Xuanji landed on a meteorite with Beast Sovereign. He took out the Holy Light Redemption Sword to help Beast Sovereign heal. Beast Sovereign had thousands of questions he wanted to ask. At this moment, thunder rumbled. Rolling thunderclouds appeared above the Kunlun Origin Court, covering the top of all the divine ranges. A world-destroying pressure enveloped the entire Kunlun Origin Court. It was as if countless gods were roaring above the thunderclouds. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow and asked, "How many experts are there in the Origin Court?" Beast Sovereign understood what he meant and replied, "The current Origin Court is led by the 12 Law Ancestors. Their strength is similar to the Origin Court War God, and they're a little stronger than me. If they join forces, only those supreme Vein Masters who rarely appear can fight against them." The 12 Ancestor. Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes. It seemed that he had underestimated the Origin Court. He originally thought that the Origin Court was lonely after leaving Origin Court War God. After all, the Origin Court could no longer control all the divine ranges. Don't worry, the 12 Ancestor won't dare to come out easily. They have enemies lurking in the Kunlun universe. Once they come out, they will definitely be ambushed. This is also why I was caught when I came to the Origin Court, Beast Sovereign said, shaking his head. Beast Sovereign shook his head, meaning that this movement was just a bluff. Zhou Xuanji curiously asked, "Oh, who dares to target the 12 Ancestor?" The 12 Ancestor are so strong. Could it be that the Sovereign Range Master hates them? You're familiar with this person as well. He is Daohu. He already escaped and is hiding in the Kunlun universe. No one knows where he is. Beast Sovereign replied. Speaking of this matter, his expression became complicated. He was the one who went to capture Daohu. After that, he became a prisoner, but Daohu escaped. What a twist of fate. During the more than 10 years of imprisonment, Beast Sovereign had been reflecting. Why did the evil Sky Divine Range end up like this? He finally understood that it was because of him. He was too arrogant. He thought that he had an 18-star super genius like Zhou Xuanji and someone with absolute combat power like Origin Court War God, but he had lost himself. The foundation of the evil Sky Divine Range was destroyed in his hands. Right, where did you go? How did you come back? Beast Sovereign asked, his tone full of curiosity. If he was captured by Namitiani, Would he still have a chance to return alive? Furthermore, this kid's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. Zhou Xuanji did not hide anything and told them about his experience in Anti-Kunlun. He ignored many details and people and spoke calmly. After Beast Sovereign heard this, he was silent for a long time, his mind in shock. Anti-Kunlun. He had also heard of this name. Since ancient times, all those who escaped from Anti-Kunlun had become supremes. He couldn't help but fall into a trance. Is Zhou Xuanji really going to become the sovereign? The Dark Age, the return of Anti-Kunlun. Although Beast Sovereign had said that he wanted Zhou Xuanji to compete for the sovereign's position, he just wanted Zhou Xuanji to give it a try. How could the sovereign's position be so easy? Zhou Xuanji asked, "When will your injuries recover? The evil sky divine range still needs you." If Beast Sovereign could return to the evil sky divine range, he could boldly look for his wife and children with more confidence. Your sword is very magical. I will recover to my peak after resting for a while. At that time, I will regain control of the evil sky divine range so that they will no longer suffer, Beast Sovereign replied. Beast Sovereign replied, his eyes turning ruthless. From now on, he would never trust the Origin Court again. He wanted to rely on himself to strengthen the evil sky divine range. Zhou Xuanji nodded and told him his goal. After learning that his wife and children had been captured, Beast Sovereign furrowed his brow and asked about the enemy's appearance. Zhou Xuanji waved his right hand and depicted the woman in red. This was also what Zhou Shaoxian had depicted for him. She had truly and completely presented the woman in red. It's her, mortal sovereign. Beast Sovereign's eyes widened as he cried out in shock. Zhou Xuanji was a little excited when he heard this. He immediately asked, "Do you know her?" Beast Sovereign took a deep breath and nodded, explaining, "Mortal Sovereign is the most powerful existence among the mortal gods. She is not bound by karma, space-time, or rules. She is definitely the most powerful existence under the Sovereign. She is also the most mysterious existence. That's why she has the word sovereign in her name. Mortal God." Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes. He felt that mortal sovereign was very similar to someone he knew. Now that he thought about it, it should be Shen Tang. However, Shen Tang and Shen Yinxing had been lost in the chaotic waves of space-time. How could it be mortal sovereign who had existed since ancient times? Maybe the aura of a mortal god gave him a sense of familiarity. You can't find her unless she wants to find you, Beast Sovereign sighed. Beast Sovereign sighed. For him, Mortal World Sovereign was definitely a senior. The sovereigns of this generation were all juniors to Mortal Sovereign. Zhou Xuanji furrowed his brow. He was very anxious. Even if Mortal Sovereign is so strong, why does he want to capture Xian Xianghua? Could it be that Xian Xianghua has some kind of effect on Mortal Sovereign? Zhou Shaoxian said that Mortal Sovereign captured Xian Xianghua because she wanted to make her stronger. Or perhaps Mortal Sovereign and Xian Xianghua have some kind of relationship? He fell into deep thought. Beast Sovereign didn't disturb him. Putting himself in her shoes, he really needed to calm down and think about it. In a crimson space filled with the aura of the mortal world, there was an isolated island. There were no weeds, only undulating wastelands. Xian Xianghua was sitting cross-legged on the ground, cultivating. Next to her was Zhou Tanhua. Zhou Tanhua was restless. He looked around. After making sure that Mortal Sovereign was nowhere to be seen, he looked at his mother and whispered, "Mother, do you want to run away now?" Xian Xianghua didn't open her eyes and replied, "Why run? Your mother has to seize the time to become stronger." Zhou Tanhua was speechless. He didn't know what to say. Ever since Supreme Hongchun had imparted the cultivation technique to Xian Xianghua, she had been hell-bent on staying here. She had never thought of running away. This made Zhou Tanhua very annoyed, but with his temperament, he would not lose his temper at his mother. He furrowed his brow, thinking about a way to escape. Mortal Sovereign was so powerful that he couldn't catch up, and this space was very strange. He tried to escape with the exterminating divine eyes, but it didn't work at all. "Little guy, what are you thinking?" A cold female voice came into his ears, making his hair stand on end. Chapter 790. Zhou Tianhua looked back and saw Crimson Dust Supremacy standing 10 feet away, looking at him quietly. She was still surrounded by red gas, making it impossible to see her true appearance. Zhou Tianhua took a deep breath and asked, "Why do you want us to stay and cultivate? Can you tell us the reason directly?" In his opinion, there was definitely something fishy going on. Could it be that the other party wanted to wait for the mother and son to achieve great success before eating them? At the thought of this, Zhou Tianhua couldn't help but shudder. It's too chaotic outside. You can cultivate with peace of mind here. Crimson Dust replied. Her voice was still cold, as if without a trace of emotion. Zhou Tianhua frowned, not knowing how to respond. Xian Xianghua suddenly opened her eyes and looked at Crimson Dust, asking, "Is the celestial demon rebirth technique related to you?" She found that the cultivation technique taught by Crimson Dust was very similar to the celestial demon rebirth technique. In the past, she relied on this cultivation technique to dominate the northern wilderness region. It was also once invincible. The celestial demon rebirth technique is not a cultivation technique that should exist in a mortal world. Don't you know that? Crimson Dust replied. She paused for a moment before continuing. Even in the Kunlun Origin Court, there are few cultivation techniques that can completely retain the bloodline, aptitude, magic treasures, and memories after rebirth. The reason why you can do so is because I am maintaining the rules of the celestial demon rebirth technique. Your rebirth is fueled by me. Everything in the myriad worlds cannot escape the word dust. Red dust chi was scattered across all planes. It was definitely one of the most powerful rules. Xian Xianghua suddenly realized and sighed. It turns out that the celestial demon rebirth technique has such an origin. If I had been studying it, maybe it would have been different. Sovereign Hongchun flew up, and strands of Hongchun chi condensed into a red chair behind her. After sitting down, she said, "Actually, I chose you a long time ago. From the moment you were born, I've been protecting you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have made it to where you are today. Every genius has the support of a great opportunity or a great background. You don't have a powerful past life, and you don't have an outstanding bloodline. If you weren't my inheritor, you wouldn't have made it to where you are today. Ever since the northern wilderness region, the great thousand worlds, the demon world, and the great elimination, I've been watching over you." Hearing this, Zhou Tianhua's eyes widened. Xian Xianghua was also stunned. Supremacy Crimson Dust was right. For example, Zhou Xuanji came this far with his 18-star aptitude. Rin Niming was the reincarnation of fate. Ying Zhuge was the reincarnation of a powerful figure. The rise of any sky pride was not a coincidence. Zhou Tianhua couldn't help but ask, "Will you let us go after we've cultivated to the advanced stage?" He had already lowered his stance by using the word you. In order to save their lives, he had to lower his head. Paragon Crimson Dust looked at him and said, "Of course you can. In truth, I don't want to capture you. It's just that there are many people out there who are targeting you. Once your father finds this place, you can leave." Zhou Tianhua's eyes widened and he asked in amazement, "My father is fine?" Zhou Xuanji had disappeared for more than 300 years, and he was already prepared for the worst. Of course he's fine. He's going to become the next supreme being. How could something happen to him? Supremacy Hong Chen replied, making Zhou Tianhua ecstatic. Xian Xianghua was the same. Her eyebrows furrowed in joy, but she still asked curiously, "You have so much confidence in him?" She could tell that Mortal Sovereign also thought highly of Zhou Xuanji. Given how powerful Mortal Sovereign was, she didn't want him to become Zhou Xuanji's enemy. "If I say he can do it, then he can do it," Mortal Sovereign snorted. Autar Crimson Dust snorted, his tone extremely domineering. Xian Shanghua's heart burst with joy upon hearing this. She beamed with joy. She immediately felt that the sky was clear after the rain. The pressure of Zhou Xuanji's disappearance had also completely disappeared. Zhou Tianhua fell into deep thought. Mortal Sovereign looked at him and said, "Your exterminating divine eyes have perfectly inherited your father's, but you can't rely on it too much. Just like your father, the exterminating divine eyes are just one of his trump cards. It can't even compare to his other abilities. Zhou Tianhua was stunned. My father has a trump card that's even stronger than the exterminating divine eyes. Xian Xianghua nodded and said in a meaningful tone, "Don't forget what your father is called." Sword. Zhou Tianhua suddenly remembered that Zhou Xuanji could always take out a more powerful sword. Looking at Zhou Xuanji's rise, it was thanks to the endless stream of swords that he was able to overcome all obstacles and surpass all invincible enemies. Could it be? Zhou Tianhua was shocked. Zhou Xuanji's image in his heart became extremely lofty and mysterious. In the void boundary, Beast Sovereign's injuries had mostly recovered. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Can you go back by yourself?" Looking at Beast Sovereign, his heart was filled with emotions. The master of a super divine range, who had once been extremely domineering, now looked so lonely. Beast Sovereign forced a smile and said, "Of course, I should also go back and clean up the mess." He no longer called himself this sovereign. This was enough to see the change in his mentality. After the two bid farewell, Beast Sovereign flew toward the Kunlun Origin Court. Zhou Xuanji watched him leave. After Beast Sovereign disappeared into the depths of the void boundary, Zhou Xuanji slowly turned around. He no longer had any awe for Beast Sovereign. He just wanted to repay his past kindness. In his eyes, Beast Sovereign was no longer an invincible existence. Next boom, Zhou Xuanji's aura skyrocketed. Violent primordial energy came out of the Tianxiao map and poured into his body. He was ready to break through to Origin Fusion Divine Lord in one fell swoop. He had killed so many creatures and absorbed the cultivation of more than 1 billion creatures. He could have broken through a long time ago. He just needed a thought. The thunderclap sword appeared above his head out of thin air, waiting for the lightning tribulation to descend. He took out the Lesser Supreme Sword, summoned Little Supreme Sword, and asked what he needed to pay attention to when breaking through to the Origin Fusion Divine Lord realm. Don't worry. For you, just let nature take its course. You've already achieved the Paragon Invasion Venerable Physique. Breaking through to the Origin Fusion Divine Lord realm will be as easy as drinking water. Ever since Zhou Xuanji cultivated the Invincible Invasion Saint Body, he had become extremely relaxed. Zhou Xuanji nodded and waited for the lightning tribulation to come. Soon, thunderclouds gathered. Purple lightning flashed, and a pair of horrifying eyes squeezed out from the sea of clouds, looking down at Zhou Xuanji. He waited patiently. However, the lightning punishment did not come for a long time, and his cultivation began to skyrocket. He couldn't help but cast a puzzled look at Little Sovereign. Little Sovereign laughed and said, "I told you, you have the invading venerable physique. Would the lightning punishment dare to strike you?" His tone was a little envious. Even though he was a supreme being in the past, he couldn't cultivate the Paragon invading body. The invading immortal body required fortuitous encounters, and the chances were even lower than becoming a supreme being. Zhou Xuanji came to a sudden realization, and he could not help but smile. In that case, no matter how he broke through, he wouldn't be restricted by the rules. He would grow fearlessly. "You actually came back." A familiar voice came from the side. Zhou Xuanji glanced over. The master of the Tianyi divine range, Nanmu Tianyi. This old guy. Zhou Xuanji's eyes were ice cold. A murderous intent rose in his heart. Chapter 791. Nanmu Tianyi looked at Zhou Xuanji, who was breaking through, with a complicated look in his eyes. Back then, he had sent Zhou Xuanji into Anti-Kunlun because he felt that this brat would definitely die. He did not have any hope that Zhou Xuanji could escape. Who would have thought that this brat would really escape? In just 300 years, he was on a break through to the Origin Fusion Divine Sovereign Realm. This was even more ridiculous than the breakthrough speed of an 18-star prodigy. The more Nanmu Tianyi thought about it, the more jealous he became. There were only two paths before him. The first was to rope Zhou Xuanji in and assist him to become the sovereign, so that the Tianyi divine range could benefit in advance. The second was to kill him on the spot and kill the threat here. Zhou Xuanji looked at him calmly and did not panic at all. If Namatiani dared to attack him, he would not be polite. Perhaps he was not Namatiani's match, but if Namatiani wanted to kill him, it would not be that easy. Their eyes met, and the two of them fell into silence. The lightning tribulation did not descend even after a long time, but Zhou Xuanji's cultivation was like a volcanic eruption, growing unstoppably. Namatiani's expression changed as he thought to himself, "What's going on? Why doesn't the lightning punishment strike him?" He could not see through the current Zhou Xuanji. Just what had this brat experienced? Why did it feel like he was a completely different person? The kind of demeanor made it seem like he was facing a mortal. Little did he know that Zhou Xuanji had already seen the sovereign and experienced the chaotic tides of time and space. He had also experienced countless tribulations that most living beings could never experience. His vision was already extraordinary. How could he be afraid of Namatiani? There was a loud bang. Zhou Xuanji successfully broke through and reached the Origin Fusion Divine Lord First Clear Enlightenment stage. The one vast heaven above his soul split open and turned into a silver halo that enveloped his soul. His great energy poured into it and turned into a brand new energy that flowed into every part of his soul and body. Yuan fused divine power. Ding! Analyze that sword owner has broken through to the Origin Fusion Divine Lord Realm. Beginning random draw. Ding! Congratulations, the sword owner has obtained Myriad Life Fusion, Broken Sword, and Vast Sky, Dream Realization Fusion Sword. The sword spirit's voice sounded out in Zhou Xuanji's mind, which made him curious. Yu Sheng forcefully broke the broken sword? Previous life realization sword fusion? Could it be that it was the same as the Proud Mortal Sword and the Proud Mortal Ghost Sword, a combination-type divine sword? Information about the two swords appeared before his eyes. Sword name: Surviving Strong Broken Sword Level. Myriad Fusion description: a sword that can sever the lifespan of others. Because it is too powerful, it has suffered the backlash of thousands of laws. Only half of the sword is left. It can be fused with the previous life realization sword to form life severing circle. Using this sword requires the cultivation of at least Origin Fusion Divine Lord. Sword name: Previous Life Realization Sword Grade. Vast Sky description: a sword that can condense the karmic luck of one's previous life and current life. It contains great fortune and is peerlessly powerful. However, it is restricted by supreme laws and is only at the vast heaven level. It can be fused with the life-breaking broken sword to form life-severing circle. One needs to be at least at the 9 vast heaven realm to use this sword. It was indeed a combination of divine swords. One could sever one's lifespan, while the other could condense one's fate. They both had miraculous uses, and they could even be combined to form an even more powerful divine sword. Zhou Xuanji was very satisfied with these two legendary swords. He looked back at Namatiani and asked, "What's the matter?" This old fellow looked at him for a long time without saying a word. It seemed like he was having an internal struggle. If Namatiani really wanted to make a move against him, then he would truly have to fight to the death. Namatiani understood the ridicule in his eyes and couldn't help but feel apprehensive. He, a dignified sovereign range lord, was actually feeling apprehensive facing a junior. If this was spread out, how many people would believe it? But he was really apprehensive at this moment. This wasn't the first time he had to make such a decision. Back then, he had such an experience with the previous sovereign. Back then, he lowered his head in exchange for the prosperity of the Tiani divine range. And now, the opportunity had come again. Except for the mortal divine range, no divine range could survive forever. Even the Tiani divine range didn't have absolute confidence. It was just that the Tiani divine range also wanted to give birth to a sovereign. Namatiani was weighing the pros and cons. He was wondering if there were any geniuses in the Tiani divine range who could compete with Zhou Xuanji. There were indeed a few who could. However, Namatiani suddenly didn't have absolute confidence. After all, Zhou Xuanji could make it out of Anti-Kunlun. He gritted his teeth and said, If the Tiani divine range doesn't target you or even help you, are you willing to let bygones be bygones and even support us in the future? In the current situation, the evil sky divine range can no longer support you. Compromise. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow and asked, "What kind of support can you give me?" He wasn't stubborn. Although Namatiani had targeted him, he had also given him some opportunities. Moreover, the current evil sky divine range really couldn't protect his family. It was better to rely on the Tiani divine range to change the situation. I will fully support you to become the sovereign. I can give you whatever resources you want. The previous sovereign had a conflict with me, but with the full support of the Tiani divine range, he was able to overcome all obstacles and become the sovereign, Namatiani said seriously. Namatiani said seriously. After he made this decision, he immediately felt much more relaxed. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "Okay." Having heard this, Namatiani was stunned. He didn't expect Zhou Xuanji to agree so easily. He asked in astonishment, "Are you serious?" Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "Although I have the confidence to escape from you, you are right. There are no eternal enemies in the Kunlun Origin Court. Moreover, there is no irreconcilable hatred between us." Namatiani smiled. In his heart, his evaluation of Zhou Xuanji was even higher. Most geniuses couldn't be as open-minded as him. As long as he could get the support of the Tiani divine range, he would have half a foot into the sovereign's position. Next, I need you to help me block the divine ranges of the evil sky divine range. I hope that the evil sky divine range can restore its peace. Of course, you don't need to help the evil sky divine range take revenge. I just want the evil sky divine range to be at peace, Zhou Xuanji said, staring at Namatiani. If he couldn't even satisfy the first request, then there was no need to continue this cooperation. So, he spoke in a commanding tone. Namatiani nodded and said, "Other than our Tiani divine range, among the divine ranges encircling the evil sky divine range, only the mortal divine range is strong enough. Old Ancestor Hanshun and I are old friends. You'll give me face. This is not a problem." He wasn't dissatisfied with Zhou Xuanji's direct request. On the contrary, he was delighted. As long as Zhou Xuanji experienced the power of the Tiani divine range, it would be even more difficult for him to abandon it in the future. He was also afraid that Zhou Xuanji would betray him after becoming the sovereign. The reason was in his heart, but he couldn't say it out loud. Also, I want to find the whereabouts of the mortal sovereign. Do you know? Zhou Xuanji changed the topic and asked. The matter of his wife and son had been hanging in his mind. He would feel uneasy if he couldn't find them. Namatiani's expression changed drastically as he asked, "Why are you looking for her?" At the mention of the mortal sovereign, a look of fear appeared in his eyes. Only those who had lived for more than 10 billion years knew how terrifying the mortal sovereign was. This was a nightmare that they didn't want to recall. "I want to find her. Just tell me if you know." Zhou Xuanji stared into his eyes and said in a deep voice. Chapter 792. Facing Zhou Xuanji's interrogation, Namatiani was silent for a moment before he slowly said, "She is in the mortal plane. Even I can't break in. I can only guide you to the closest spatial node to the mortal plane." Zhou Xuanji was overjoyed when he heard this. Although mortal sovereign was ridiculously powerful, he had to go. With the exterminating divine eyes and the exterminating immortal physique, he might be able to escape with his wife and children. Let me give you a piece of advice. Mortal sovereign is ruthless. He won't tolerate even a grain of sand in his eyes. If you anger him, even I can't save you, Namatiani reminded. Although he didn't know why Zhou Xuanji wanted to find mortal sovereign, he hoped that Zhou Xuanji would back off. Some existences couldn't be provoked. Zhou Xuanji nodded and asked Namatiani to lead the way. The two quickly left. Zhou Xuanji adjusted the origin fusion divine energy in his body while flying. After breaking through to origin fusion divine Lord First Enlightenment, his strength had soared. The exterminating immortal physique seemed to have become a little stronger. After the breakthrough, it quickly stabilized. His aura was no longer unstable. The higher his cultivation, the more he could feel the power of the exterminating immortal physique. No matter where he went, the great Tao rules automatically gave way. No one dared to stop him. Thousands of rules had to bow down to him. Namatiani also noticed this. He was shocked in his heart. What kind of opportunity did this kid get? Isn't this too exaggerated? Rules give way. All laws are invulnerable. Namatiani had mixed feelings. He really wanted to capture Zhou Xuanji and study him. But his reason told him that assisting Zhou Xuanji was the best plan for him and the Tiani divine range. Above the Kunlun universe, there was a space hidden on the other side of the universe. There were many palaces and countless floating islands. This was the Origin Court, the pinnacle of power in the Kunlun Origin Court. In a palace radiating a colorful glow, the 12 Law ancestors were gathered. They were hovering above the lotus throne in the air, forming a circle. Beast Sovereign escaped, and Mortal Sovereign came to make trouble. What should we do? A white-haired old man asked with an ugly expression. Before the Sovereign disappeared, he handed over the power to them. But they failed to protect the Kunlun Origin Court. Instead, they made it more and more chaotic. It was really embarrassing. Forget it. Daohu is waiting for us outside. Let's just cultivate in peace. That's right. The era of darkness is something that we cannot stop. Once the new Supreme Being appears, everything will settle down. In the past, there were no Crimson Dust Supremes who jumped out to stir up trouble. So be it. Do you dare to stop her? Without the Honorable here, who could be her opponent? Only a virtualized realm, ancient great being, would be able to descend, the ancestors of technique began to discuss. Most of them were very calm, as if they had no desires. Seeing this, the white-haired old man sighed. He understood that Origin Court's heart was broken. With the 10 supreme divine ranges pressuring the Origin Court and Dao hiding in the dark, they didn't dare to leave the Origin Court realm. Every time the white-haired old man thought of the 12 ancestors living in such a sorry state, his heart would feel suffocated. This won't do. I absolutely can't resign myself to death. The white-haired old man's eyes were resolute, and he did not say anything. He waved his hand, indicating that they could disperse. The ancestors of technique did not say much and left. The white-haired old man plucked a strand of hair and threw it down. Clouds gathered at the bottom of the hall. The hair disappeared without a trace as soon as it fell in. He mumbled to himself, I want to see who is qualified to become the sovereign. At the edge of the void boundary, in a dark cosmic space, there were no stars, sun, or moon. Zhou Xuanji looked ahead and asked, Are you sure it's here? Namatiani nodded and said, This used to be a branch of a super divine range. Because it offended Crimson Dust Supremes, it was massacred. Crimson Dust Chi was left here. Because the resentment of the dead creatures did not dissipate, the Crimson Dust Chi also gathered here. Over time, this place became a Crimson Dust space. Once you enter, your mind will be bewitched by the Crimson Dust Chi. Zhou Xuanji immediately activated the exterminating divine eyes and scanned the dark space. Soon, he saw countless red dots in the darkness. They were very small, like grains of sand. In a vast cosmic space, it was very difficult to notice them. He suddenly disappeared from where he stood. Namatiani's pupils suddenly dilated. He gnashed his teeth and said, How is it possible? He went in directly. Even he couldn't break into the Crimson Dust Plane. How did Zhou Xuanji do it? On the other side, in the Crimson Dust Plane, Xian Xianghua and Zhou Tanhua were cultivating on a deserted island. Crimson Dust Sovereign was nowhere to be seen. Zhou Xuanji appeared behind them out of thin air, placing his hands on their shoulders. The mother and son were startled. They subconsciously looked back and were stunned when they saw Zhou Xuanji. Father, Zhou Tanhua called out in a daze. He couldn't believe his eyes. Zhou Xuanji's expression changed slightly. He couldn't take Xian Xianghua and Zhou Tanhua away. Crimson Dust Sovereign is still here. He took a deep breath and let go of Xian Xianghua and Zhou Tanhua. Two legendary swords appeared in his hands. They were Yu Sheng Chong Broken Sword and Previous Life Dream Realization Sword. A short sword and a curved sword. Both looked extraordinary. They shone with a strange light in the dim crimson dust plain. "Come out!" Zhou Xuanji shouted in a deep voice as he glanced around. Even the soul source orb appeared. Xian Xianghua quickly advised, "Sovereign didn't mistreat us. Instead, she taught us cultivation techniques. You can't be rude." She wasn't standing on the side of Crimson Dust Sovereign. She was just afraid that Crimson Dust Sovereign would vent his anger on Zhou Xuanji. How powerful was Crimson Dust Sovereign? Once they fought, Zhou Xuanji wouldn't be able to win. Zhou Tianhua nodded in agreement. He carefully looked at Zhou Xuanji and couldn't help but fall into a trance. For some reason, he felt that his father had changed. He couldn't tell what had changed. His appearance was the same as before, but his temperament was different. Taught cultivation techniques? Is she really teaching you how to cultivate? Zhou Xuanji asked with a frown. He looked puzzled. They had no reason to be with Crimson Dust Sovereign. How could there be love for no reason in this world? Zhou Tianhua replied, "It's true. So far, Crimson Dust Sovereign hasn't made things difficult for us." His heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat. He had a lot of questions to ask. Where has Zhou Xuanji been in the past 300 years? "Sure enough, you found this place." Crimson Dust Sovereign's voice drifted over. Zhou Xuanji couldn't tell where the voice came from. He couldn't hear the slightest emotional fluctuation. Zhou Xuanji turned around, and his brow furrowed even more. Sure enough, it's her. In the passage between the two worlds, the red figure who helped him was Crimson Dust Sovereign. Could it be that Crimson Dust Sovereign could freely travel between the Kunlun Origin Court and Anti-Kunlun? At this moment, he was full of curiosity about Crimson Dust Sovereign. "You're still the same. You haven't changed at all," Crimson Dust Sovereign said faintly. Zhou Xuanji's expression changed upon hearing this, while Xian Xianghua and Zhou Tianhua were stunned. Chapter 793. Mortal Sovereign knew Zhou Xuanji. Xian Xianghua and Zhou Tianhua glanced at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. They didn't mean that Mortal Sovereign knew Zhou Xuanji. Mortal Sovereign said that Zhou Xuanji hadn't changed, which meant that he had known Zhou Xuanji for a long time. Zhou Xuanji looked at Mortal Sovereign with a complicated expression. He finally recognized Supreme Crimson Dust. How could it be her? He had mixed feelings in his heart. There was surprise, shock, and disbelief. Shentang. The mortal supremacy was the mortal god he had met in the Anti-Kunlun. After they parted in the passage between the two worlds, how could she become the world-shaking mortal supremacy? Could it be that she had fallen into an ancient timeline? But that shouldn't be the case either. Then, how could he have met Crimson Dust in the passageway between the two realms? At this moment, Zhou Xuanji had countless questions he wanted to ask. With Zhou Xuanji's silence, the atmosphere became silent. Zhou Tianhua wanted to say something, but hesitated. This kind of low pressure made him very uncomfortable. He wanted to ask, but he didn't dare to open his mouth. Xian Xianghua couldn't help but ask, "You two know each other?" Zhou Xuanji didn't know how to answer. He felt guilty towards Shun Tang and Shun Yinqing. It was all thanks to the help of this pair of sisters that he had the cultivation he had today. But his promise to the sisters was not fulfilled. Now they only saw Shun Tang, but not Shun Yinqing. Could it be that Shun Yinqing had already, even someone as strong as mortal supremacy couldn't save Shun Yinqing? At this thought, Zhou Xuanji's heart sank. Ever since he was born, I have been paying attention to him. Your marriage was brought up by me. Sovereign Hong Chun said calmly, which stunned Xian Xianghua. Zhou Tianhua was equally shocked. Didn't this mean that he was able to be born thanks to Supremacy Hong Chun? Pooh! How could he say that? On the other hand, Xian Xianghua thought about many things. When she had first met Zhou Xuanji, she had felt that this boy was not bad. No matter how much he provoked her, she had never acted viciously. Now that she thought about it, she couldn't help but shudder at the might of Mortal World Supreme. Of course, she did not regret her relationship with Zhou Xuanji. Instead, she rejoiced. If it weren't for Supreme being Hong Chun, She might have missed out on this period of happiness. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Can we talk in private?" It was useless to escape. He also wanted to know how Shun Tang managed to survive and become a mortal supremacy. Yes. With a wave of her hand, she and Zhou Xuanji disappeared into thin air. Only Xian Xianghua and Zhou Tanhua were left on the deserted island. Zhou Tanhua asked nervously, "Mother, will father be all right?" He could see that the atmosphere between Zhou Xuanji and mortal sovereign was not right. This was the first time he had seen his father's expression so ugly. Xian Xianghua shook her head and said, "If Hong Chan's supremacy wanted to target him, why would he waste his breath?" When Zhou Tanhua heard this, he felt that it made sense. However, he still had too many doubts in his heart. The other side, Zhou Xuanji and mortal sovereign came to a space filled with white light. There was nothing here but a vast expanse of whiteness. Looking at mortal sovereign, Zhou Xuanji was about to speak. Supremacy Hong Chun suddenly threw herself into his arms and hugged him tightly. He was stunned. His expression changed from astonishment to shame. He would rather Shun Tang scold him. That way, he would feel better in his heart. Finally, he could only say, "I'm sorry." The mortal supremacy in his arms suddenly revealed her true form. Wisps of mortal chi dissipated, revealing her peerless figure in her red robes. She was wearing a crown inlaid with pearls. Her figure was the same as before, but her temperament had become extremely cold. She closed her eyes, quietly leaning on Zhou Xuanji's chest, listening to his heartbeat. "I have been looking forward to this feeling for countless years," she murmured softly. Zhou Xuanji's heart became even heavier after hearing this. He had long been aware of Shun Tang's feelings for him back then. Not only her, but even Shen Yinxing also had a trace of affection in her eyes when she looked at him. Because of this, he felt so guilty. It was the hardest to accept a beautiful person's favor. After a long while, Zhou Xuanji asked, "How did you survive after we parted?" Mortal Sovereign raised her head and took 2 steps back, looking at him. Her beautiful and cold face became expressionless again. She slowly replied, "After we parted ways, I lost contact with my younger sister as well. I fell into a space-time impasse alone. There was nothing there, so I could only cultivate. When my cultivation reached the pinnacle, I forcefully broke out of the space-time impasse, but it was already too late to return. I traveled in the passageway between the 2 worlds, and then I met you. At that time, I realized that although I had passed a long time, it wasn't too long for you. I sheltered you all the way. When you fainted, I sent you into the space-time despair, hoping that you could cultivate well. After that, I continued to explore the passageway between the 2 worlds to search for my sister. I didn't expect to encounter the Sovereign's rule and fall into the ancient times of the Kunlun Origin Court. It was impossible to return to the passageway between the 2 worlds. I could only survive. Until one day, something fell from the Kunlun Origin Court and fell into the mortal world. Its aura was very similar to yours, so I sealed its aura and whereabouts. I even helped it absorb the souls along the way to become stronger. I watched it merge with you in your previous life and bring your soul to another mortal world." While speaking, her eyes were fixed on Zhou Xuanji. There was a touch of infatuation hidden in the depths of her eyes. She could live until now because of 2 obsessions. One was Zhou Xuanji. The other was Divine Yinxing. Divine Yinxing couldn't be found anymore. Only Zhou Xuanji was left. Zhou Xuanji was shocked. He instantly understood that the thing Mortal Sovereign was talking about was the Supreme Legendary Sword System. No wonder the Supreme Legendary Sword System could find him without any hindrance. He had been thinking before. The Supreme Legendary Sword System is so powerful that it can even absorb the soul of Little Sovereign. Why wasn't the Sovereign or the other powerhouses of the Kunlun Origin Court aware of it? It turned out that Mortal Sovereign was behind this. He tried to calm his emotions. Mortal Sovereign's words were too unbelievable. Even he had to calm down. Mortal Sovereign looked at him and said, "I don't blame you for what happened in the past. You have done your best." She did resent Zhou Xuanji. At that time, That was the only way to make her feel better. But when she saw Zhou Xuanji going crazy and desperate in the passageway between the two worlds, her resentment disappeared. Maybe it was all fate. Zhou Xuanji took a deep breath and asked, "What are your plans now?" Mortal's sovereign replied, "I will train Xian Xianghua and help you become the sovereign." She looked at Zhou Xuanji with blazing eyes and said, "I have seen more than one sovereign. Most of them wanted to open a brand new Kunlun origin court and travel to unknown areas, including the previous sovereign. Now, your chance has come. I erased all the letters and scrolls left by the previous sovereign before he left. He wanted to train the origin court war god as the new sovereign. But no way." Speaking of this, the corner of her mouth rose. Her smile was so high-spirited and insufferably arrogant. Looking at her, Zhou Xuanji couldn't help but fall into a trance. He inexplicably thought of Tanhua sect master Xian Xianghua in the northern wilderness region. That top demon cultivator overlapped with the current mortal sovereign. It was somewhat similar. Chapter 794. Looking at mortal sovereign's enchanting face, Zhou Xuanji sighed softly and asked, "What about yourself?" The better mortal sovereign was to him, the more uncomfortable he felt. Hearing this, mortal sovereign stopped smiling. He coldly snorted and said, "Naturally, when you become the sovereign. At that time, I want you to help me find Yinxing. I must find her. If she is not in the Kunlun origin court, then you will accompany me to look for her in other unknown areas. If you still can't find her, then you will accompany me through time to save her, who is about to disappear in the passage between the two worlds." She had already planned it out. Based on her own opportunities, she had deduced it. Perhaps it was her future self who saved Shen Yinxing. That's why she couldn't find her. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "Whether I can become the sovereign or not, I will help you. It's just that she is in a different timeline. Is she still her?" The rules of time were difficult to speculate. Many powerhouses jumped out of the rules and erased themselves from other timelines, making themselves unique. Of course, Anti-Kunlun was an exception. Even the sovereign didn't know about its existence. Mortal gods exist independently. There is only one of them in any timeline. If she is not here, she will be a certain point in time, mortal sovereign replied. Autarch Crimson Dust replied, his voice filled with an arrogance that transcended all living beings. Zhou Xuanji suddenly thought of the bald girl he had seen before. The mortal god looked very similar to Shen Yinxing. It could even be said that they looked exactly the same. He told Mortal Sovereign about it. Mortal Sovereign shook his head and said, "I was the one who kidnapped her at that time. She is not Yinxing. She is just a descendant of mine. Back then, I used my mortal chi to create many mortal gods and distributed them all over the world, waiting for you and Yinxing to appear. Most of the current mortal gods are descendants I created. Their bloodlines are not pure. They can't be regarded as real mortal gods. That's why there hasn't been a mortal god that can suppress the Kunlun origin court for a long time." Zhou Xuanji sighed in his heart. Shen Tang has really transformed. She is actually so generous. Back then, Shen Tang was gentle and elegant. But now, she was unruly and arrogant. Time can really change everything. When can my wife and children go back? Zhou Xuanji changed the topic and asked. The purpose of his trip was to find Xian Xianghua and Zhou Tanhua. He hadn't forgotten about it. Red Dust Supremacy's eyes became thoughtful, and she said, "Back then, you always talked about them, and now I've seen it with my own eyes. You really didn't lie. Don't worry, they're safe here with me. If they were outside, they would be in danger. You could take your son with you. As for Xian Xianghua, she still has to accept my inheritance. I will turn her into a red dust god, and then she can help you with your cultivation." She purposely emphasized the word cultivation, which made Zhou Xuanji think back to the past. Zhou Xuanji asked with narrowed eyes, did she agree? Regardless of whether Hongshan Supremacy had good intentions or not, he still had to listen to Xian Xianghua's will. Supremacy Crimson Dust waved her hand, and the two of them returned to Xian Xianghua. She looked at Xian Xianghua and asked, "He asked me, Are you willing to cultivate with me? Xian Xianghua nodded and said, I want to become strong. In pure sword heaven, her cultivation speed wasn't slow, but couldn't compare to Zhou Xuanji and Zhou Tanhua. So, she had been holding back. Now that the opportunity had finally come, she naturally didn't want to miss it. Zhou Tanhua's eyes shifted between Zhou Xuanji and Supremacy Crimson Dust. He felt that something was wrong. Why did Supremacy Crimson Dust call himself after the two chatted for a while? Could it be? He couldn't help but think too much. Although he admired his father very much, Supremacy Crimson Dust was so powerful and had such a high seniority. How could he take a fancy to his father? I must be thinking too much. Zhou Tanhua shook his head. Zhou Tanhua shook his head. Speaking of which, he had never left the evil sky divine range alone in his entire life. When can I meet the one in my life? Zhou Xuanji took Xian Xianghua's hand and said, I can help you become stronger. Their exterminating divine eyes were the same. If he became stronger, Xian Xianghua would also become stronger. Xian Xianghua curled her lips and said, I can't catch up with you. I will soon be surpassed by Tanhua. Ever since I came here, my cultivation has been skyrocketing. It's really fast. Zhou Xuanji glared at her and angrily said, That's because I've become stronger. That's why your cultivation has skyrocketed. I have now surpassed the 9 vast heavens and reached the origin fusion divine Lord realm. Xian Xianghua couldn't help but widen her beautiful eyes when she heard this. Seeing them talking as if there was no one else around, Supremacy Crimson Dust's eyes were filled with envy. Let me stay here for a while. If she wanted to harm me, she would have done it long ago. Xian Xianghua shook Zhou Xuanji's arm and said coquettishly, she would only act like a little girl in front of Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji couldn't change her mind and could only agree. He looked at Zhou Tanhua and jokingly scolded, What about you? Do you want to stay too? Zhou Tanhua looked at Xian Xianghua and then at Supremacy Crimson Dust. Finally, he looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, I will go with you. Supremacy Crimson Dust only taught Xian Xianghua cultivation techniques and only taught him a divine ability. Obviously, Supremacy Crimson Dust didn't want to nurture him. Zhou Xuanji looked at Supremacy Crimson Dust and said, Please take care of her. Supremacy Crimson Dust nodded slightly, but there was a hint of resentment in her eyes. She seemed to be blaming him for being so polite. Zhou Xuanji couldn't stand her gaze and had no choice but to leave with Zhou Tanhua. Supremacy Crimson Dust clicked his tongue in amazement and said, It seems that he can come and go freely in any plane or space. In this regard, he has surpassed Zhou Fa. Xian Xianghua's eyes lit up. Zhou Fa wasn't strong. He just had some kind of spatial divine ability that allowed him to appear and disappear unpredictably. This had already spread in the Kunlun Origin Court. Even if they knew this, most people would find it hard to deal with Zhou Fa. Xian Xianghua curiously asked, How strong is my husband now? Why do you say that he will definitely become the sovereign? She wanted to ask just now, but Zhou Xuanji left too quickly. She couldn't find a chance to be alone with him. She was also very puzzled. Why did Zhou Xuanji leave so quickly? Is it to avoid Supremacy Crimson Dust, or is there something urgent in the evil sky divine range? He already has the physique that even the sovereign's dream of. Supremacy Crimson Dust said meaningfully. Xian Xianghua's curiosity was piqued even more by Sovereign Hong Chen's words. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji and Zhou Tanhua returned to the Kunlun universe. Namatiani was still waiting there. Namatiani's eyes widened the moment he saw him coming out with Zhou Tanhua. How was this possible? He can really save my son from Supremacy Crimson Dust. It's too outrageous. Zhou Tanhua was stunned when he saw him. He immediately asked Zhou Xuanji, Who is he? Zhou Xuanji replied, Tiani Divine Range's Range Master, Namu Tiani. As soon as he said this, Zhou Tanhua's expression drastically changed. He immediately got ready for battle. Chapter 795. Don't be nervous. The Southernwood Bloodline Lord is one of us now. Zhou Xuanji said with a mysterious smile. He had already warned Zhou Tianhua not to tell anyone about their communication with mortal sovereign. After Nan Matiani gave in, Zhou Xuanji already had a big plan in his mind. Zhou Tianhua was stunned. One of our own? One had to know that in the past 300 years, Nan Matiani was the greatest enemy of the evil sky divine range. Although Nan Matiani had never personally taken action, everyone in the evil sky divine range knew that the person who commanded the Tiani divine range to attack the evil sky divine range was Nan Matiani. How did he become one of us? Nan Matiani was extremely shrewd and instantly saw through his thoughts. He smiled and said, "It was all a misunderstanding in the past. No one will attack the evil sky divine range in the future." Zhou Tianhua looked pensive. How did Zhou Xuanji convince Nan Matiani? "All right, you can go back first. If I have anything to trouble you with in the future, I will look for you." Zhou Xuanji looked at Nan Matiani with a smile. Having heard this, Nan Matian nodded. He flipped his right hand and took out a jade pendant. He passed it to Zhou Xuanji and said, "This jade is connected to me. You can contact me through it at any time." He was the sovereign range master. If Zhou Xuanji did not leave behind a special communication method, it would be very difficult for him to see him. If not, his subordinates would stop Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji took the jade pendant and threw it into the supreme storage. Nan Matiani did not waste any words and disappeared. Zhou Tianhua asked curiously, "Father, what's going on between you and him?" Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "He feels that I have a high chance of becoming the sovereign. For the future of the Tiani divine range, he gave up his grudge and decided to support me." As soon as this statement came out, Zhou Tianhua's eyes widened and his face was full of disbelief. Is there such a thing? Isn't the Tiani divine range a paragon divine range? There are countless geniuses in the Tiani divine range. Why are they still lacking candidates for supremacy? Why did it feel so unreal? "Father, we still have to be careful," Zhou Tianhua reminded, fearing that Zhou Xuanji would be deceived by Nan Matiani. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "I have killed more enemies than you have eaten. Do I need you to teach me?" This sentence made Zhou Tianhua scratch his head in shame and smirk. That was right. If Zhou Xuanji was so easily fooled, he would have died long ago. He had heard from Xian Xianghua that Zhou Xuanji had been targeted by destiny in the past. If it was him, he would have long since despaired. "Let's go." Zhou Xuanji took out the Tri-Phoenix Qilin carriage and smiled. "Father, can you tell me where you've been for the past 300 years? "Of course you can." "I, your father, encountered Nanmu Tiani. After the father and son entered the carriage, the Tri-Phoenix Qilin carriage flew toward the Kunlun origin court. Kunlun universe, boom. A golden bell collided with an incomparably large star, smashing it into pieces. It was like the Big Bang of the universe, and the resulting impact was visible to the naked eye. It swept through the universe like breaking dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. "Ha ha ha, is that all you can do?" A golden-robed man stood on top of the golden bell. His white hair fluttered in the wind, and his expression was wild and arrogant. There were figures of living beings in all directions, and the weakest had a cultivation of one vast heavens. There were more than 1,000 of them. Looking at the arrogant golden-robed man, they all cursed angrily. "What are you being so arrogant for? Luo Xiang, if you didn't have your father's treasure, we would have beaten you up. It's impossible to become a sovereign by relying on supreme treasures." Yeah, is everyone in the sovereign emperor divine range so shameless? Of course. Who doesn't know that the sovereign emperor divine range survived until now because of despicable means? Facing the words of the living beings, the golden-robed man called Luo Xiang wasn't angry at all. Instead, he laughed even more wildly. Luo Xiang smiled mockingly and said, "You are all going to die, and you are still talking about this." Just when he finished speaking, the golden bell under his feet let out another deafening sound. A wave of golden radiance swept across all directions, annihilating all living beings. Their bodies and souls were destroyed, and they died without a burial place. At this moment, the Tri-Phoenix Cheeling carriage flew over from the depths of the universe and collided with the golden radiance. The carriage shook, and two silver beams shot out, breaking through the golden radiance. The Tri-Phoenix Cheeling carriage regained its stability and continued moving forward. Luo Xiang squinted his eyes and mumbled, "This carriage. Could it be the evil Sky Divine Range's Tri-Phoenix Cheeling carriage?" Zhou Xuanji. He had heard of Zhou Xuanji a long time ago. He wanted to challenge Zhou Xuanji, but Zhou Xuanji disappeared, so he could only change his target. Now that Zhou Xuanji had appeared, he immediately became excited. "Zhou Xuanji, stop. Fight with me," he shouted as he flew toward the Tri-Phoenix Cheeling carriage on the Golden Bell. Inside the carriage, Zhou Tanhua felt dizzy from Luo Xiang's roar. Fortunately, Zhou Xuanji protected his soul with Origin Fusion Divine Power. He asked with a frown, "What is this person's cultivation? Just his voice alone can make me." His cultivation wasn't low. He had already become a Tao-treading saint. In an ordinary divine range, he could be considered a mainstay. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "It's okay." He immediately got up and appeared on the roof of the Tri-Phoenix Cheeling carriage. Looking at the huge golden bell coming at him, his eyes narrowed. He immediately cast Suppressing the Universe. Time and space in the entire universe froze. Luo Xiang's expression changed. Suddenly, two arms grew out of his back, each forming a Tao seal to resist the Suppressing the Universe. Although his speed had decreased, he still charged toward Zhou Xuanji. Interesting. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow and chuckled. He didn't panic. Instead, he took out the Yuxing broken sword and gently slashed. Ultimate Chaos Tao. Countless sword qi appeared out of thin air, flooding toward Luo Xiang from all directions. Clang, clang, clang. The huge golden bell was bombarded by the sword qi, producing a continuous deafening sound. Luo Xiang activated his Origin Fusion Divine Energy to create a light shield to resist the sword qi. He was shocked to find that his Origin Fusion Divine Energy was being absorbed by the sword qi. What divine ability is this? He didn't dare to take it lightly anymore. His body turned into a beam of light as he leaped toward Zhou Xuanji like an arrow. While galloping, his figure flickered, turning into countless afterimages. He passed through the sword qi with the momentum of an inescapable net and pressed toward Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji raised his sword and pointed, casting the inverse chaos divine ability. Luo Xiang only felt a blur before his eyes. Zhou Xuanji and the Tri-Phoenix Cheeling carriage disappeared into thin air. Only sword qi was left in front of him. His eyes immediately widened. What's going on? Zhou Tanhua in the carriage was also dumbfounded. From his perspective, Luo Xiang instantly changed his direction and rushed toward the back. It was very strange. The corner of Zhou Xuanji's mouth rose as he threw his sword. Void instant kill. PFFF. Luo Xiang's chest was pierced. He looked down in horror. What's going on? He looked back and saw that the golden bell and countless sword qi were behind him. At this moment, his worldview collapsed. Zhou Xuanji raised his hand and sucked, casting universal attraction. Luo Xiang flew toward him uncontrollably. Just as Luo Xiang was about to be caught by him, a black light swept over and took him away. "He's mine!" A cold voice came. Zhou Xuanji turned his head and saw a figure appearing on the other side of the Star River, looking at them from a distance. Chapter 796. Zhou Xuanji looked over and felt that this person was somewhat familiar. Isn't this Dao Hu? Why is he here? Zhou Xuanji furrowed his brow. He had seen Dao Hu when he followed Be Sovereign to eliminate Dao Hu Qiuzuan. The current Dao Hu should have been reborn. He even dared to block the 12 Law ancestors. His strength was definitely above that of Be Sovereign. Dao Hu took Luo Xiang into his palm. When Luo Xiang came back to his senses and looked up, he was almost scared out of his wits. "Dao Hu, what are you doing?" Luo Xiang cried out in fear, his body trembling uncontrollably. He knew how terrifying Dao Hu was. Just the thought of being captured by Dao Hu sent shivers down his spine. Dao Hu looked down at him and snorted coldly. Then he closed his palms and put them into his sleeves. After that, Dao Hu looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, "I won't pursue the grievances from before. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other." As soon as he finished speaking, he vanished into thin air. Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes. This fellow did not take revenge on him. Why was that? Beast Sovereign led the experts of the Evil Sky Divine Range to destroy Dao Hu, Qiuzun's lair, and even capture Dao Hu to the Origin Court. Logically speaking, Dao Hu should hate Beast Sovereign and the Evil Sky Divine Range to the extreme. He couldn't figure it out, so he turned around and flew toward the Tri-Phoenix Qilin carriage. He suddenly caught a glimpse of Luo Xiang's golden bell still floating in the cosmos. It was like a golden mountain, mighty and sacred. He smiled, took the golden bell away, and returned to the carriage. The Tri-Phoenix Qilin carriage continued onward. Zhou Xuanji began playing with the golden bell, trying to get rid of the owner recognition mark within. Luo Xiang was not dead yet, so for the time being, he could not directly erase the master recognition mark of the golden bell. However, once the magic treasures were far away from their masters, the connection between them would also weaken. "Father, who was that just now?" Zhou Tanhua asked curiously. Dao Hu was unfathomable, which made him feel that he was facing Beast Sovereign, or even more terrifying. Zhou Xuanji replied, "Dao Hu, have you heard of it?" Upon hearing this, Zhou Tanhua's expression changed. He asked doubtfully, wasn't he captured by Beast Sovereign and handed over to the Origin Court? Such a powerhouse had actually escaped. The Kunlun Origin Court was getting more and more chaotic. At the same time, it also showed that the Origin Court was wavering. They couldn't even keep the criminals under control. Now that Dao Hu had escaped, would there be more experts escaping in the future? Who knows? The Origin Court is now led by the 12 Law Ancestors, and the 12 Law Ancestors are trapped in the Origin Court by Dao Hu. They don't dare to come out. After I rescued Beast Sovereign, they didn't dare to chase after me. Zhou Xuanji said as he shook his head. His tone was casual and a little teasing. The once supreme Origin Court had now become a joke. It was really ironic. Zhou Tanhua was secretly shocked. He didn't expect Dao Hu's strength to be so strong. At the same time, he had a deeper understanding of the chaos in the Kunlun Origin Court. They didn't encounter any more obstacles along the way. However, the Tri-Phoenix Qilin carriage had reappeared in the Kunlun Origin Court and was remembered by many creatures. Soon, the news of Zhou Xuanji's return spread to every divine range. The sovereign list was still in effect. After all, the sovereign list wasn't as simple as a ranking list. Although Zhou Xuanji had not appeared in the world for 300 years, his fame was still there. At that moment, many geniuses were tempted to step on Zhou Xuanji. Evil Sky Divine Range. Zhou Xuanji returned to Pure Sword Heaven with Zhou Tanhua. Jiang Shui asked about Xian Xianghua's situation. Zhou Xuanji didn't hide anything. Jiang Shui breathed a sigh of relief after learning that Xian Xianghua had obtained the inheritance of Mortal Sovereign. Zhou Xuanji didn't leave immediately. He planned to stay in Pure Sword Heaven for a while. He gathered everyone and placed the 12th rank Deep Black Lotus beside him before he began to preach. After experiencing the anti-Kunlun and the passage between the two worlds, his cultivation had reached an extremely profound level. As soon as the Tao voice came out, everyone's heart immediately calmed down. The spiritual qi in Pure Sword Heaven began to surge. The great Tao rules manifested one after another as all kinds of phenomena emerged one after another. Inside the Sovereign Palace, Beast Sovereign, who was sitting on the main seat and cultivating, was shocked. He opened his eyes and muttered to himself in shock. This kid's cultivation, listening to Zhou Xuanji's preaching, he had a feeling of enlightenment. Zhou Xuanji talked about the cultivation of all living beings from the perspective of time and space. It was extremely profound. Although it was profound, his Tao voice had a unique charm. Listening to his preaching, one's cultivation speed would increase. And so, Beast Sovereign began listening to Zhou Xuanji's preaching. He cultivated while listening. He thought that Zhou Xuanji couldn't see him. Little did he know that Zhou Xuanji had already noticed him. TSK, TSK. Zhou Xuanji found it funny in his heart. Once upon a time, he had to look up to Beast Sovereign, and now Beast Sovereign had to listen to his preaching. Zhou Xuanji didn't think too much about it. He quickly concentrated on preaching. Time flew. A year later, Zhou Xuanji's preaching ended. The reason it ended was that Beast Sovereign wanted to see him through voice transmission. Zhou Xuanji bowed slightly upon entering the Sovereign Palace. Many geniuses have come to challenge you this year, but I have blocked them all outside the divine range. But there is one thing that you must do. It's very important for your sovereign path, Beast Sovereign said, staring at Zhou Xuanji. The more he looked at Zhou Xuanji, the more satisfied he felt. My original decision was right. I should have spared no effort to cultivate this kid. The future of the evil sky divine range could already be entrusted to Zhou Xuanji. What is it? Zhou Xuanji asked curiously. Could it be a great opportunity for Beast Sovereign to be so serious? Beast Sovereign began to speak tirelessly. In the central universe area of the Kunlun Origin Court, there was an independent plane. An ancient powerhouse who had lived for countless years lived in it. He recently announced his birth and sent a voice transmission to all the range masters, claiming that he would impart a divine ability to the right person. He asked each divine range to send their most talented geniuses. The previous sovereign had received the divine ability inheritance of this powerhouse. It was enough to show how strong he was. On this trip, you have to compete with all the geniuses. Once you stand out, you will be able to suppress all the geniuses in terms of fame, Beast Sovereign solemnly stated. He didn't have such an opportunity back then, but now that Zhou Xuanji had it, he didn't want Zhou Xuanji to miss it. At the same time, he also believed that Zhou Xuanji could do it. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "No problem." Beast Sovereign reminded, "There is one guy you have to be careful of. He is Huan Ruzhen from the Sovereign Emperor Divine Range. This kid was a war god under a sovereign in his previous life. He has never left the Sovereign Emperor Divine Range since he was born. For this opportunity, the Sovereign Emperor Divine Range has already said that they will let Huan Ruzhen take action." Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. There is such a genius with such a background. It seems that the Kunlun Origin Court is really full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. I can't underestimate it. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said with a smile, "Don't worry, the final winner will be me." So what if he is a war god? He is also a sovereign. Seeing him so confident, Beast Sovereign was relieved. Zhou Xuanji then left the Sovereign Palace, preparing to return to the pure sword heaven. As soon as he flew out of the Sovereign Palace, he met an acquaintance. Wei Yi. Wei Yi's expression changed drastically as soon as he saw him. He looked very embarrassed. Zhou Xuanji greeted him with a smile. "Brother Wei, how have you been? When can we get together?" Chapter 797. Wei Yi pretended to be calm and smiled faintly. "I'm fine. It's just that I missed you after not seeing you for so many years." This fellow's skin was really thick. Zhou Xuanji sighed in his heart. He hadn't forgotten his grudge with Wei Yi. Once he had the opportunity, he would immediately eradicate Wei Yi. But not now. He wanted to see what Wei Yi would do next. Zhou Xuanji flew to Wei Yi's side and gently patted him on the shoulder. He smiled meaningfully before flying towards pure sword heaven. Wei Yi's palms were full of cold sweat, and a storm was set off in his heart. This kid seems to have changed into another person. What's going on? Wasn't he captured by Namitiani? How is he still alive? Wei Yi frowned and quickly made a decision. He had to leave as soon as possible, lest Zhou Xuanji collude with Beast Sovereign to deal with him. Thinking of this, he flew towards the Sovereign Palace with an uneasy mood. The other side, Zhou Xuanji returned to pure sword heaven. He found Jiang Shui and told her about the inheritance of the divine ability. Then you definitely won't have any problems. You can step on them and soar into the sky, becoming a supreme being. Jiang Shui said with a smile, her eyes filled with adoration. She trusted Zhou Xuanji 100%. And after he came back from Anti-Kunlun, She was even more certain that he would become the sovereign. Zhou Xuanji rubbed her head and said with a smile, "Release Emperor Sword Court after some time. Let Jinghong bring them to the void boundary to train themselves. I hope to see the rise of Emperor Sword Court." Jiang Shui nodded. The 24-ranked deep black lotus had always been in Zhou Xuanji's residence, so that it was convenient for him to look after Emperor Sword Court. Now, Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Tsongyin, Lin Changge, Chun Bantian, and the others had all reached the Saint Realm and were even competing for the Dao-treading Venerable Realm. Sage Realm experts still had the ability to survive in the Void Boundary. After all, the Void Boundary Palace was already under Zhou Fei's control. The Void Boundary Emperor and the Void Boundary God had already escaped. The 10,000 worlds were also out of control. This was a good opportunity for Emperor Sword Court to train and grow. He believed that Zhou Fei wouldn't dare to go against Emperor Sword Court. Otherwise, he would just be waiting to be devoured by the power of Hongqian Supreme until he died. After that, Zhou Xuanji preached the Tao to Jiang Shui. At the same time, he imbued her with wisdom and helped her to quickly increase her cultivation. Zhou Xiaoxian was envious when she saw it. She wanted it too, but Zhou Xuanji rejected her heartlessly. Her talent was much stronger than her mother's, so she didn't need to be imbued with wisdom. That would just be pulling up seedlings to help them grow. In the blink of an eye, several years passed. Under Beast Sovereign's reminder, Zhou Xuanji set off. Beast Sovereign used his divine will to transmit the location of the Almighty Expert to him. This ancient Almighty had a mysterious origin and claimed to be at the peak of the Wheel Realm. No one knew how long he had lived. Zhou Xuanji left the Evil Sky Divine Range on the Tri-Phoenix Qilin carriage. On the way, he continued to refine Luo Xiang's golden bell. He didn't have much interest in this golden bell. He just wanted to refine it and give it to Zhou Tianhua. That kid lacked powerful magic weapons, so he could use this bell. The defensive power of this bell was still very strong. Since it could block his sword Qi, it was equivalent to blocking most of the attacks of Essence Fusion Divine Monarch. At least, it gave Zhou Tianhua one more life-saving card. An hour later, he was surrounded by Sky Prides. He was no longer the same as he had been in the past. He easily defeated his opponent and almost sucked all of his primordial energy dry. That genius was so frightened that he knelt down and begged for mercy. Zhou Xuanji did not kill them all. He defeated his enemies along the way and absorbed their cultivation. As the news of his battle spread, his reputation also rose. Have you heard? Zhou Xuanji has become stronger. Yeah, in just 300 years, he has actually reached the Origin Fusion Divine Lord Cultivation. Isn't this too ridiculous? If I remember correctly, he is only a little over 1,000 years old, right? Terrifying. This is an 18-star genius. Our divine ranges also have 18 star geniuses, but they are not as abnormal as him. And Zhou Xuanji is not the reincarnation of an almighty expert. Who dares to challenge him now? They are courting death. Zhou Xuanji will suck away all their cultivation. All kinds of rumors about Zhou Xuanji began to spread in various divine ranges of the Kunlun Origin Court. Zhou Xuanji had transformed from a genius with great potential to a true expert. Origin Fusion Divine Lord. This was a realm that many middle and lower divine range masters could not reach. As these rumors spread widely, fewer and fewer geniuses came to challenge Zhou Xuanji. He was also getting closer and closer to his destination. The Wheel Summit lived in an independent world called the Lesser Samsara. It was his cave mansion. If he hadn't opened the mansion, no one would have been able to find the Lesser Samsara. The Lesser Samsara was located in a gray universe. The Great Tao here was intricate and complicated. It belonged to the chaotic period, but it was not the beginning of the universe, but the chaos after the universe was destroyed. Thousands of mounts and enchanted artifacts were already parked near the spatial node. There were also geniuses standing alone, waiting quietly. The arrival of the Tri-Phoenix Qilin carriage attracted most people's attention. Zhou Xuanji did not hide his aura. Every Origin Fusion Divine Lord was a threat to everyone present. It's him. Young heavenly lord sat on the hilt of a giant sword and muttered to himself with a frown. He had not been in the Kunlun origin court during this period, so he did not know that Zhou Xuanji had returned before he appeared. Many people had already recognized Zhou Xuanji. They began discussing him in groups of 2s and 3s. These people had arrived earlier than Zhou Xuanji. They did not know Zhou Xuanji's strength, so they were all mocking him. Although they were surprised by Zhou Xuanji's cultivation, the evil sky divine range was already at its end. No matter how strong he was, it was useless. He would be destroyed by the Tiani divine range and the mortal divine range sooner or later. The Tri-Phoenix Qilin carriage stopped. Zhou Xuanji did not get off, but continued to refine the golden bell inside the carriage. At the edge of the area where geniuses gathered, there was a man with messy hair. His face was rough, and his clothes were loose. He had a tough body. Although he was wearing an ancient outfit, he gave off an extremely domineering aura, which attracted many geniuses' attention from time to time. He was sitting on something that looked like a shell with a meaningful smile on his face. Zhou Xuanji, interesting. Could he be the variable that he mentioned? He mumbled to himself as a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He was the most powerful genius of the Sovereign Emperor Divine Range, Yuan Ruzhen. After Zhou Xuanji arrived, no one came to look for trouble. Everyone was waiting patiently. This was the spatial node of the lesser reincarnation. They did not want to mess around, lest they disturb the peace of the wheel's summit. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, several months had passed. Zhou Xuanji had successfully refined the golden bell. This bell had completely become ownerless. As for Luo Xiang, he had been captured by Dao Hu. He was most likely dead. All of you come in. Remember, don't speak. You can only speak when I allow you to. Whoever dares to disobey die. An ancient voice resounded across the chaotic universe. Soon after, a black spatial rift appeared and quickly widened. The geniuses swarmed in. Zhou Xuanji flew out from the Tri-Phoenix Qilin carriage and stored it into the supreme storage. 2 swords appeared in his hands. World Fool Sword. Chapter 798. Zhou Xuanji heard Luin Pinnacle's words and had a wicked idea. He took out the 2 World Fool swords to confuse the surrounding geniuses and make them play themselves to death. Following the flow of people into the black spatial crack, they came to a blue sea and blue sky. As far as the eye could see, the sea was boundless. The horizon connected with the sky, forming a beautiful picture. All the geniuses held their breath and flew forward without saying a word. Zhou Xuanji counted. There were more than 10,000 of them. The weakest was in the 9 vast heavens. There were more than 500 origin fusion divine lords. The 9 vast heavens would form a team. The origin fusion divine lords would travel alone, keeping a distance from the others. Zhou Xuanji deliberately flew to the center of the crowd with a strange smile on his face. His actions attracted a lot of attention, but when everyone saw that he was not messing around, they stopped paying attention. The sea seemed endless. No matter how they moved forward, they still couldn't see any islands or land. Soon, they noticed that something was wrong. Why didn't I see Lun Pinnacle? And why did this sea make them feel lost? No matter how they flew, they couldn't reach the end. No voice transmissions, no talking. This is your first test. See who can persist. You must maintain a unified formation and fly forward. Whoever dares to stop will be expelled immediately. Luin Pinnacle's ancient voice sounded again, casting a haze over everyone's heart. What does he want to test? What's waiting for them ahead? Zhou Xuanji was the most relaxed. This test was nothing compared to what he experienced in the passageway between the 2 worlds. He could keep his mind as still as water. The atmosphere was silent. They couldn't communicate, which made everyone's mood very sensitive. They felt extremely depressed. Most geniuses from the divine ranges wouldn't temper their mental state. After all, they had a high starting point and abundant resources. Even if they didn't cultivate hard, they could reach heights that ordinary creatures couldn't reach. 2 hours, 1 day, 10 days, 1 month, more and more geniuses couldn't bear it anymore. Many were scratching their ears and cheeks, twisting their necks, trying to keep themselves awake. In such an oppressive atmosphere, it could make people go crazy. Huan Ruzin and young Heavenly Lord were still calm. Most Origin Fusion Divine Lords were not affected. Right at this moment, the sound of something tearing through the air resounded through the sky. Everyone raised their heads and looked over, only to see a streak of sword chi circling rapidly in the sky. Everyone looked at Zhou Xuanji with strange expressions, not knowing what he wanted to do. Zhou Xuanji gave a condescending smile. Because they could not communicate, his expression meant different things to different people. He wants to make a move? Who did he want to kill? Did he see a breakthrough point in this situation? Was he crazy? Everyone was shocked, including Yuan Ruzin and young Heavenly Lord. In the following period of time, Zhou Xuanji released his sword chi from time to time, which shocked the geniuses. Everyone looked at him furiously. Yuan Ruzin also tightly frowned. In such a situation, everyone's heart tightened. Zhou Xuanji's actions were the same as his enchanted treasure. Cheap. Zhou Xuanji did not care about their gazes and continued to do what he wanted. The two-world fool swords followed closely behind him. He had already noticed that the people around him were getting more and more irritable. They were all gritting their teeth, as if they were trying to hold back something. It's almost done. Zhou Xuanji smirked and laughed mockingly. He was waiting for the people around him to explode. Only one person could pass the divine ability inheritance test. Because of this, the purpose of each test was to filter out the unsuitable candidates. This test looked boring and endless, but it was actually a test of endurance. It would probably end after the number of people reached the threshold. He was not the only one who thought of this. The other geniuses just did not dare to make a move. No one wanted to stand out. Zhou Xuanji was an Origin Fusion Divine Lord, so even if he provoked others, no one dared to attack him. The other Origin Fusion Divine Lords were very calm and patient. Otherwise, they would not have cultivated to such a stage. Another 3 days passed. 8 vast heavens geniuses looked at each other and suddenly slammed their palms toward Zhou Xuanji. The primordial energy condensed into 2 gigantic palm silhouettes, knocking away the geniuses along the way. Their target was Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji tilted his head and easily broke through the 2 palm silhouettes with the exterminating divine light. The geniuses who were knocked away were enraged. All of them attacked the 2 geniuses. In an instant, the scene became extremely chaotic. Zhou Xuanji took out 2 invisible swords and shuttled through the battlefield. He took advantage of the chaos and injured people everywhere, causing the geniuses to engage in a chaotic battle. The geniuses did not completely lose their minds. They continued to fly forward while fighting. A few of them stopped by accident and disappeared on the spot. The other geniuses were so frightened that they did not dare to let their guard down. Boom, boom, boom. Huge waves surged on the ocean. All kinds of divine abilities clashed against each other. The scene was spectacular. Everyone gritted their teeth and did not dare to speak. They were afraid that they would make a sound. Yuan Ruzin flew at the edge of the group. He did not participate in the battle, but looked into the distance. The shell on his body was like a lotus seat, carrying him as he sped forward. Zhou Xuanji also encountered many attacks. With world internalization, he absorbed a lot of primordial energy and Origin Fusion Divine energy, which was extremely comfortable. On the battlefield, he was the only one who smiled. In the Green Mountains, there was a pavilion beside a lake under a waterfall. There were stone tables and chairs in front of the pavilion. Luan Feng sat before the stone table and watched the battle. A water ball levitated on the table, reflecting the chaotic battle between the geniuses. He wore a white robe and looked like he was in his 30s. Although he had experienced the vicissitudes of life, he was still handsome. His eyes were filled with deep starlight. TSK, those 2 sword are interesting. Luan Feng stroked his long beard and said in amazement. His eyes were fixed on the 2 World Fool swords on Zhou Xuanji's back. The World Fool swords were of low grade and had no sense of presence, but he noticed them. Power of the Great Fool. Interesting. I didn't expect an extinct power of rule to still exist. Although it's weak, It's the power of great you indeed. Luan Feng's smile was filled with deep meaning. He waved his right hand, and the world within the water ball changed suddenly. At the same time, Zhou Xuanji and the other geniuses sensed an immense heavenly might. Billowing thunderclouds billowed and covered the sky, plunging the ocean into darkness. Such a phenomenon did not end the chaotic battle. Many people were already in a killing frenzy and could not care less. Zhou Xuanji suddenly sensed that someone was spying on him. He looked up, and a purple radiance shot out from his eyes. The radiance pierced through space and landed on Luan Feng, who was in front of the stone table. He immediately looked away in case he disturbed Luan Feng. If this old thing flew into a rage out of humiliation, wouldn't he have come for nothing? He can see me? Luan Feng's eyes brightened as he mumbled to himself in surprise. His interest in Zhou Xuanji grew. A perfect, exterminating divine eyes and the power of great you. Where did this guy come from? Chapter 799. Just when Zhou Xuanji looked away, the feeling of being spied on appeared again. He knew that he had already attracted the attention of the top of the wheel. He flew forward obediently, avoiding the chaotic battle around him. By relying on the inverse chaos divine art, no one could hurt him. At first glance, he looked like a fish swimming in the water, easily avoiding all the dangers. But in truth, everything he did was the inverse chaos spirit art, reflecting the attacks of other spirit arts. Zhou Xuanji thought that no one could detect the existence of the inverse chaos divine ability. After all, he had learned about this divine ability from Little Sovereign. However, Luan Feng was stunned by the inverse chaos divine ability. Is this the inverse chaos divine ability? He's been to Anti-Kunlun? Luan Hao's eyes popped out as he screamed in astonishment. Even his breathing became hurried. He knew what it meant to return from Anti-Kunlun. This meant that this person was a sovereign in the Anti-Kunlun and had a high chance of becoming a sovereign in the Kunlun Origin Court in the future. The two Kunlun Origin Courts were opposite, but their composition was the same. The Supremes would also be the same person, just that their personalities would be completely different. Thinking about this, he became even more interested in Zhou Xuanji. As the battle began, the number of prodigies on the ocean decreased. One after another, the prodigies stopped fighting or cursed angrily. In the end, they disappeared into thin air. No one knew if they were dead or alive. Under such circumstances, not only did the battle between the Sky Prides not stop, it became even more intense. They all thought of the same thing. That was to speed up the process of elimination. Once the number of people decreased to a certain extent, wouldn't the test be over? If there was only one prodigy left, if not him, then who would be the one to impart the divine ability? Because of Yuan Ruzin's identity and strength, no one dared to offend him. He had been secretly observing Zhou Xuanji this entire time. Strange, could it be that he is using some kind of divine ability? Why is he always able to dodge my attacks so coincidentally? His brow furrowed thoughtfully. Ever since Zhou Xuanji appeared, he felt that Zhou Xuanji would become a formidable opponent. So along the way, he paid special attention to Zhou Xuanji. As expected, this guy looked peaceful, but he had caused the heavens' favorites to fall into a chaotic battle. Zhou Xuanji also noticed his divine sense, but did not pay much attention to it. Through the conversation with the other geniuses, Zhou Xuanji already knew that he was Yuan Ruzin. B Sovereign had warned Zhou Xuanji to be careful of being wronged. Although he remembered it, he did not treat it as pressure. I wonder what kind of divine ability the Wheel Summit will impart. Zhou Xuanji thought in anticipation. This divine ability must be extraordinary for all the divine ranges to pay so much attention to it. Hopefully, it was a divine ability that was suitable for him. 13 days later, there were less than 2,000 prodigies left on the sea. Even so, the chaotic battle continued, especially the geniuses around Zhou Xuanji. They fought ferociously, as though their parents were killed. Zhou Xuanji, who was standing among them, seemed so out of place. All right, You have passed the first stage. The voice of the wheel summit suddenly rang out. Immediately after, everyone felt an extremely powerful force wrap around their bodies. Their vision swayed, and after the world spun, they all fell to the ground. Zhou Xuanji did not fall. He steadied himself and looked up. He realized that he was at the top of a mountain. The surrounding mountains were undulating, and there were geniuses everywhere. All of them looked around nervously and curiously. Even though they had passed the first round, they did not dare to speak. He was already used to being banned. You can all speak now. Next, I need you to find something. It's the smallest existence in this world. 1 month later, all of you will gather here, and I will test to see who is the smallest. The person who obtains the smallest will be able to obtain my divine ability inheritance. Here, you can fight as you wish, but do not destroy the world. Or else, I will expel you. If it's serious, I will kill you on the spot. The voice of the wheel summit came again with a murderous aura. His voice and words made people feel that he was a ruthless and murderous old senior. The geniuses began to move, while Zhou Xuanji pondered on the spot. The smallest thing? It must not be so easy to find. It might be everywhere, but it could not be captured by the eyes and mind. Could be transformed by some kind of rule? Zhou Xuanji felt that it was highly possible. He had the extermination sage constitution, which made him extremely sensitive to everything around him. Did you think of something? Yuan Ruzin's voice floated over. He walked over to Zhou Xuanji's side with a smile. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, I thought of something indeed. What about you? Yuan Ruzin smiled and said, for this test to be held, it must be everywhere. It's just that it's very difficult to catch it. The two shared the same opinion and smiled at each other. Zhou Xuanji thought that Yuan Ruzin was an arrogant person, but he did not expect him to be so easy to communicate with. He could not help but feel curious about Yuan Ruzin and asked, You are the reincarnation of a war god. Do you still need to learn divine abilities? To him, Yuan Ruzin's identity was not inferior to the wheel summit. This divine ability is not simple. Moreover, in front of this powerhouse, even I could only be considered as a junior in my previous life. Yuan Ruzin said as he shook his head. He walked past Zhou Xuanji to the edge of the cliff and looked into the distance. You are very powerful, but according to my understanding, you are only 1,000 years old. Without an illustrious past life, how did you become so powerful? Yuan Ruzin asked with his back facing Zhou Xuanji. His back was emanating a majestic aura, just like the Origin Court war god. Zhou Xuanji said with a smile that did not seem like a smile. 2 words, arduous cultivation. Do you believe it? What's wrong with this guy? He wants to have a heart-to-heart talk with me. Yuan Ruzin looked back at him and said, Zhou Xuanji, how about we have a duel? You are only at Origin Fusion Divine Lord Stage 1. I will not bully you. 100 years later, we will fight to the death in the Kunlun universe. How about that? Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes. His gaze turned cold. So this guy was just a smiling fox. He talked so much just to have a duel to the death. Zhou Xuanji asked with a cold smile, Oh, why do you want to die? Yuan Ruzin threatened him, so there was no need for him to give face. Yuan Ruzin was not angry. He shook his head and said with a smile, Our sect leader wants you to die. You must die, but I admire you very much. I'm willing to give you 100 years to grow. Zhou Xuanji said bluntly, Don't you know that being kind to your enemy is being cruel to yourself? Now, he did not need to swallow his anger and grow. Whoever wanted to suppress him, he would fight. Oh, why do I see that you are the one who wants to die? Yuan Ruzin threatened with narrowed eyes. This time, he was really angry. He was kind enough to inform Zhou Xuanji about the duel in advance and gave Zhou Xuanji 100 years to grow. But this brat did not appreciate it. How arrogant. Does he really think that he is the top genius of the Kunlun Origin Court? Yuan Ruzin's killing intent rose. As his aura rose, his robe began to flutter. Zhou Xuanji directly opened the soul source orb between his eyebrows, as if he had opened a third eye. The two looked at each other. Almost at the same time, they rose from the ground and rushed into the sky. Chapter 800. Zhou Xuanji and Yuan Ruzhen left the ground and came to the sky. They turned into two meteors and clashed violently. Sword light and black light flashed continuously. The two's aura was so powerful that the nearby geniuses all looked over in shock. It's Zhou Xuanji and Yuan Ruzhen. Why are they fighting? They didn't fight earlier, but fought the moment they came in. What logic is this? Could it be that they have already discovered the smallest thing in this world? Very likely. Or else, why would they fight each other directly? What should we do? Hide around them and attack at any time? The geniuses discussed among themselves. More and more geniuses approached quietly. Be it Zhou Xuanji or Yuan Ruzhen, they were both extremely famous. Killing one of them could boost one's reputation tremendously. Moreover, they might be able to find out the location of the smallest thing from the two. Zhou Xuanji and Yuan Ruzhen did not take others seriously. They only had eyes for each other now. Swoosh, 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 countless sword shadows charged toward Yuan Ruzhen from all directions. They were as violent as a hurricane and as loud as thunder. Yuan Ruzhen blocked his attack easily with his palms. He looked casual, but he was shocked in his heart. This brat's origin fusion divine energy is so powerful. He doesn't look like someone who just broke through to origin fusion divine lord. Yuan Ruzhen had to take it seriously. Although he was confident, Zhou Xuanji was cunning, and he did not want to fail. Zhou Xuanji took out the Yusheng broken sword and the previous life dream realization sword. At the same time, he used the sword fusion technique to fuse all of the legendary swords into his body. His physical strength was pushed to the limit as he slashed with both swords. Clang! Yuan Ruzhen was blasted away, and his expression changed immediately. Why did this brat suddenly? Before he could think further, Zhou Xuanji came at him. 81 sword souls appeared behind him and slashed toward him in streaks of silver light. At the same time, new sword souls were formed. Returning to simplicity, his sword souls had already surpassed the Sword Dao rules. Each of them contained powerful origin fusion divine energy and inverse chaos energy. Yuan Ruzhen blocked with his palms. His attacks were wild and ferocious. Soon, he realized that every time he scattered the sword souls, Zhou Xuanji would absorb his origin fusion divine energy. He did not panic. His right hand drew a black scythe as he leaped. The scythe was long, and there was a spiky black hammer at the end. He brandished his blade and slashed wildly, tearing apart the wind and waves and shaking the sky. Zhou Xuanji and Yuan Ruzhen were very smart. Their origin fusion divine power did not get close to the ground. Once it left the range of their battle, it would automatically dissipate. This guy's strength should have surpassed origin fusion Lord Lu Ming. No wonder he's so arrogant. Zhou Xuanji thought in his heart. His eyes were still as sharp as ever. Even if Yuan Ruzhen had the strength to surpass origin fusion immortal Lord Lu Ming, he was not afraid. He kept getting closer to Yuan Ruzhen. 81 sword souls shot out, but they were all blocked by Yuan Ruzhen. Yuan Ruzhen waved his scythe, and a black wind started to blow around him. It was as if there were 4 black pillars that connected heaven and earth. The scene was extremely majestic. Zhou Xuanji raised the broken sword and activated the ultimate chaos Dao. Boundless sword qi swept over from all directions towards Yuan Ruzhen. Although the battle between the two of them was controlled to a certain extent, the aura they emitted was truly frightening. The prodigies were all shocked. Just how strong are they? What precise control? His Yuan fusion divine power is actually able to dissolve on its own. Most importantly, their battle is very fast. There's no time for them to rest at all. These two are not to be trifled with. Is Zhou Xuanji really not the reincarnation of a powerful cultivator? Isn't the speed of his growth a little too exaggerated? Be it the nearby prodigies or those who were looking for the smallest thing, they were all paying attention to this battle between the peerless geniuses. At the stone table beside the waterfall, Luan Feng was also paying attention to this battle. So, it's the reincarnation of the origin court war god. Interesting. But I'm more interested in this kid who is proficient in the inverse chaos divine ability. Luan Feng clicked his tongue in amazement. His eyes were filled with excitement. He did not expect that there would be people among the geniuses who could surprise him, and there was more than one. At this moment, Yuan Ruzin suddenly exploded. His hair suddenly grew long, his body became burly, and his robes bulged. His eyes became extremely fierce, and his cheeks were covered with black scales. His speed skyrocketed, and he suddenly disappeared. Zhou Xuanji's pupils contracted. Before he could react, Yuan Ruzin appeared behind him. Boom! Yuan Ruzin punched out with energy like the yellow springs breaching the dam. The punch landed on Zhou Xuanji's back, and the space rippled like the surface of a lake. However, this punch did not hurt Zhou Xuanji. Inverse chaos divine ability. Strong but weak. Yuan Ruzin's expression changed. He began to maneuver and attack Zhou Xuanji violently. From a third person's perspective, Zhou Xuanji seemed to have no power to fight back. He even looked a little uneasy. But in fact, he was not injured at all. Yuan Ruzin's heart grew heavier. What kind of divine ability was this? It was invisible and colorless. He could not figure it out. Most importantly, during this process, Zhou Xuanji had been absorbing his origin fusion divine energy. How can I fight like this? Zhou Xuanji looked left and right, laughing in his heart. The inverse chaos divine ability was indeed powerful. It almost put him in an invincible position. The reincarnation of the Origin Court war god was nothing more than this. Yuan Ruzin began to use all kinds of divine abilities, but he still could not break through the defense of the inverse chaos divine ability. After letting him attack for a long time, Zhou Xuanji also absorbed a lot of origin fusion divine energy, and his cultivation grew tremendously. Next, it was his turn to counterattack. Countless silver silhouettes flew out from his body. Greatly avatars. Now, his greatly divine suppressor technique had reached the 5th level, and the number of greatly avatars had reached tens of thousands. Yuan Ruzin was shocked and quickly dodged. Zhou Xuanji fused the Yuxing Destruction Sword and the previous Life Dream Realization Sword. The two swords combined into one, and a powerful radiance burst out. An extremely long lightsaber appeared in his hand. Life Slasher Sphere. With Life Slasher Sphere in his hand, he charged toward Yuan Ruzin with all his greatly avatars. This time, Zhou Xuanji was completely serious. He was prepared to kill Yuan Ruzin with all his might. He activated the exterminating divine eyes to suppress the universe. The space within a radius of 10,000 meters froze. Yuan Ruzin's face turned solemn as he felt a formless force restraining him. He shook his shoulders and forcefully broke through the powerful force suppressing the universe. Zhou Xuanji and the tens of thousands of greatly avatars drowned Yuan Ruzin. This time, it was Yuan Ruzin's turn to be at a disadvantage. Zhou Xuanji's prowess shocked and surprised many geniuses. His opponent was Yuan Ruzin. The most powerful genius of the Sovereign Emperor Divine range was suppressed by him. If they did not see it with their own eyes, they would not believe it. Zhou Xuanji was in a good mood. The feeling of crushing a powerful enemy was really satisfying. With the inverse chaos divine ability, no matter how Yuan Ruzin fought back, it did not affect him at all. The inverse chaos divine ability could withstand the chaotic tides of time and space. It could withstand the suppression of the two supreme rules of time and space. How could Yuan Ruzin resist it? Chapter 801. Xiao, Xiao, swoosh. Zhou Xuanji wielded his sword with one hand. His sword was extremely swift, sharp, and domineering. Due to being engulfed by world internalization, Yuan Ruzin did not dare to face it head-on and could only keep dodging. There were clones of the Great Li in all directions. No matter where he moved, he would be attacked. If this continued, he would definitely lose. Damn it, how can I be defeated by him? Yuan Ruzin was enraged, his eyes burning with anger. He abruptly turned into a streak of black light and shot towards the top of the sky. His entire body burned with black flames, and his aura skyrocketed at a terrifying speed. Black flames scorched the sky. He stood up from the sea of black flames, his body towering tens of thousands of feet tall, like an ancient demon god awakening. Zhou Xuanji stopped and sensed danger. At this moment, Gue Ruzin made him feel like he was facing old demon soul mover. Sure enough, this guy was hiding a trump card. Zhou Xuanji did not panic, but looked forward to it. It had been a long time since he had gone all out in a fight, and he wanted to test his true strength. Yuan Ruzin was a good target. Let's stop. You can fight after you get out. The wheel summit's voice came suddenly, and the tense atmosphere between Zhou Xuanji and Yuan Ruzin disappeared immediately. Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes, and all of the great Li avatars entered his body. Yuan Ruzin also started to shrink and retracted his aura. They had to give face to the wheel summit. Let's see how you escape after we get out. Yuan Ruzin snorted coldly, which made Zhou Xuanji want to laugh. Why do I feel like I shouldn't run after school? He did not reply. He was too lazy to argue. Then, he separated from Yuan Ruzin and went to search for the smallest item. The geniuses came back to their senses. This battle made them realize how powerful Zhou Xuanji and Yuan Ruzin were. They were really powerful. He had already broken away from the category of geniuses and had entered the ranks of first-rate powerhouses. Zhou Xuanji landed, but he didn't move. Instead, he scanned the surroundings with his exterminating divine eyes, trying to find the smallest thing. According to his original idea, this smallest thing should exist in every corner of this world. From a scientific point of view, it was like the existence of molecules. However, they should be so small that they couldn't be observed. The exterminating divine eye was one of the 5 ultimate divine eyes. If it couldn't see it, then it was even more impossible for the other geniuses to see it. Yuan Ruzin came to the riverside 100 miles away and similarly stood at a spot, observing quietly. All prodigies who had reached the Origin Fusion Divine Lord stage were like this. The top of the wheel would definitely not test their ability to search. That would be too much of test of luck. The true purpose of this test was probably to test the spiritual will of the Sky Prides. For a time, this expanse of the heavens and the earth returned to peace. Luan Ding watched with satisfaction and muttered, "You almost destroyed my nest. How interesting." As his voice fell, wisps of red dust chi appeared beside him. The red dust chi condensed into the figure of the red dust supremacy. It didn't reveal its true face, it was just a red shadow. Upon seeing her, Luan Feng's expression changed slightly. He asked in a deep voice, "What are you doing here?" His tone was filled with fear. Crimson Dust Supremacy said, "He is back. The true catastrophe of the Kunlun Origin Court is about to descend. What are you going to do?" Hearing this, Luan Feng's expression changed. That hymn seemed to be very strong, strong enough to make Autar Crimson Dust personally come, strong enough to make Luan Jie's expression change. What do you mean by what I'm going to do? This matter doesn't just concern me." Luan Feng snorted coldly, his expression returning to normal. He clenched his right hand into a fist, and the water ball on the table shattered. Crimson Dust Supremacy said, "Don't forget, you worked the hardest to seal him back then. Even if the Kunlun Origin Court is destroyed, I will still exist, but you will no longer exist." Luan Feng's expression became unnatural again. Crimson Dust Supremacy continued, "Get ready to fight. Unless you defeat him, you can't continue your seclusion. Recently, many unknown existences have appeared in the Kunlun Origin Court, such as Zhou Fa, who obtained the inheritance of a certain supreme. His origin is mysterious, and there may be a hand behind this." Luan Feng took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. He understood that what Crimson Dust Supremacy said was right. If that guy really came back, he would be the first to be found. He looked up at Crimson Dust Supremacy and asked, "What are your plans?" He was curious about the appearance of Crimson Dust Supremacy. This woman appeared and disappeared mysteriously. Why did she suddenly care about the Kunlun Origin Court? "I'm looking for you to deal with him. Get ready." Crimson Dust Supremacy dropped these words and disappeared. She came and went like the wind. Luan Feng fell into deep thought. After a while, he condensed a water ball and continued to observe the situation of the Sky Prides. Time flew. A month passed by quickly. Luan Feng moved all the Sky Prides to the riverside. The Sky Prides had different expressions. Some were full of confidence, some were uneasy, and some were in despair. This month was torturous for most of the Sky Prides. They all had high hopes. It wasn't easy for them to reach this step. They didn't want to be eliminated. Their eyes fell on Luan Feng. Luan Feng scanned all the Sky Pride from the stone table and said slowly, "6 of you have found the smallest thing. Everyone else, go back." He waved his right hand, and most of the Sky Prides disappeared. Zhou Xuanji, Yuan Ruzhen, young Heavenly Lord, and the other 3 Sky Prides looked at each other. They were all very calm. Young Heavenly Lord looked at Zhou Xuanji as if he was a stranger. Their eyes met like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. "You have all found that thing. Do you know what it is?" Luan Feng asked with a smile. His eyes were full of deep meaning. Young Heavenly Lord replied first, "It's a type of rule power. It's dispersed into countless particles and is very well hidden." Luan Feng nodded and said, "The divine ability that I want to pass down is actually a sublimation of the rule. It's called the Destiny Manifestation Spell. This spell was created based on the rule of the Master of Destiny. It can manifest the fates of oneself and one's enemy. If you want them to die in the future, the fate of death will descend immediately. But this spell is the same as most divine abilities." The eyes of the geniuses sparkled. They were all attracted by the Destiny Manifestation Spell. Manifest fate, including the predestined fate? Such a divine ability was absolutely horrifying. "I must get it." Zhou Xuanji was determined to get it too. He had been targeted by destiny before, so he had always been interested in the power of destiny. Now the opportunity was finally here. "Take out the destiny factors that you have collected." "Let me see." Luan Feng instructed with great anticipation. The Sky Prides opened their right hands one after another. Bright spots appeared on their palms. If one did not look closely, it would be hard to notice. Zhou Xuanji was the same. He had already predicted this, so he had collected many destiny factors just in case. But at a glance, everyone's hands were glowing. It was impossible to tell who had more and who had fewer, and who was bigger and who was smaller. Yuan Ruzhen and young Heavenly Lord glanced at his palms. Instantly, their pupils contracted. How could it be? Chapter 802. Luan Ding glanced at the palms of the 6 people and nodded in satisfaction. Stroking his beard, he smiled and said, "Not bad. All of you have exceeded my expectations." However, when the Sky Prides heard the first half of the sentence, they were overjoyed. However, when they heard the last 2 words, their hearts skipped a beat. There can only be one person who can inherit the fate manifestation technique. He looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, "You have collected the most destiny factors. You will receive the inheritance." Hearing this, the other 5 heavens favorites panicked. Why did he make a decision so quickly? They thought that there would be another test. Yuan Ruzhen's face was the most unsightly. He had just had a conflict with Zhou Xuanji. So how could he allow Zhou Xuanji to inherit a divine ability? Just as they were about to speak, Luan Feng waved his right hand and teleported them out. Only the Wheel Summit and Zhou Xuanji were left in the entire world. Luan Ding shook his head and laughed. He looked at Zhou Xuanji and asked curiously, "You are not happy?" From the beginning to the end, Zhou Xuanji was very calm. Compared to the other 5 prodigies, his composure was outstanding. "Of course I'm happy to receive the inheritance, but I don't need to show it, right?" Zhou Xuanji bowed with a smile. His tone was neither servile nor overbearing. Although the fate manifestation technique was very powerful, it was nothing compared to his inverse chaos spirit technique, invading infiltration venerable body, and soul source bead. Therefore, from the beginning, his mentality was better than all the other prodigies. Without desire, one would be firm, and without desire, one would be relaxed. Luan Feng nodded and said with a smile that was not a smile, Indeed, after all, you have the inverse chaos divine ability that is not inferior to the fate manifestation technique. Zhou Xuanji's pupils contracted. This guy knew about the inverse chaos divine art. Seeing that the other party's expression had finally changed, Luan Feng couldn't help but burst into laughter. Back then, I had a close friend who also obtained the inverse chaos divine ability. In the end, he became a supreme being, undying through the ages. He jumped out of the universe and broke free from karma. Luan Feng stroked his beard and smiled, a look of reminiscence on his face. Time flew by, and his old friends were no longer around, leaving him alone to guard the Kunlun origin court. It was really lonely. Zhou Xuanji asked curiously, "How many sovereigns have you met?" Luan Feng answered, "Not many, only 8. 8. Zhou Xuanji's heart shook, and he could not help but feel deep veneration. A supremacy's reign lasted at least a few billion years. 8 supremacies added together. One had to know that there was a dark period between the succession of supremes. No wonder he couldn't see through such an ancient existence. Can you tell me about your encounters in the Anti-Kunlun? I have always been curious about the Anti-Kunlun, but unfortunately, I have never been there." At the same time, he raised his hand and gestured for Zhou Xuanji to sit before the stone table. Zhou Xuanji nodded and chatted with him as they walked to the stone table. There was nothing to hide about Anti-Kunlun's experience. After all, the other party already knew that he had the inverse chaos divine ability. Meanwhile, within the chaos verse, Yuan Ruzhen, young heavenly lord, and the other 3 elites appeared out of thin air. They were stunned and almost went crazy. They were eliminated just like that? They refused to accept this. This feeling was like falling from the sky into the abyss. Was there something wrong with the Chakra Summit? Since they were going to be eliminated, why didn't they be eliminated together with the previous prodigies? Why did they have to stay and chat with them? Play with them? The more they thought about it, the angrier they became. However, they did not dare to explode and could only suppress it in their hearts. Oomph. The young heavenly lord snorted and left. The other 3 prodigies also left. Yuan Ruzhen took out a giant shell and sat on it, waiting for Zhou Xuanji to come out. Zhou Xuanji had inherited the destiny manifestation spell, so he must eliminate him as soon as possible. Otherwise, if Zhou Xuanji's destiny manifestation spell reached great accomplishment, it would be a disaster for him. Yuan Ruzhen had lived for countless years in his previous life and had seen many geniuses with horrifying aptitudes. I want to see if your destiny manifestation spell can help you escape death. Yuan Ruzhen's eyes flickered as he muttered to himself coldly. Previously, he could not use his full power in Luan Summit's independent world. If they were fighting outside, he would surely make Zhou Xuanji despair. Beside the river, before the stone table. After Luan Summit heard about Zhou Xuanji's experience in the Anti-Kunlun, he sighed in amazement. Kunlun Origin Court, Anti-Kunlun. Interesting. Who is real and who is fake? And who is the real rebel? I'm afraid even the sovereign can't tell. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Do you know why the sovereigns disappeared one after another? Where did they go?" The sovereign was an invincible existence in an era. There was no such thing as the end of their lifespan or chi deviation. Little guy, this is not something you can understand. When you become the sovereign, you will be able to see through everything in this world. But unfortunately, it is much more difficult to become the sovereign in this generation. Luan Summit shook his head with a smile. Speaking of this, a trace of murderous intent flashed in his eyes. This trace of murderous intent came and went quickly. Even someone as powerful as Zhou Xuanji did not notice it. "Senior, please enlighten me," Zhou Xuanji said as he cupped his fist. Could it be that something big happened in the Kunlun Origin Court? A long time ago, there was a sovereign who enslaved the world in pursuit of power. That was the true Dark Age. After that sovereign left, a few sovereigns appeared in the Kunlun Origin Court one after another. All of them treated the sovereign with kindness. But no one expected that the Dark Sovereign suddenly returned and fought with the sovereign at that time. almost destroying the Kunlun origin court. Fortunately, all the ancient powerhouses joined hands to help the sovereign, and only then did the Dark Sovereign retreat, Luan's summit said faintly. Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji frowned. For some reason, he inexplicably thought of Zhou Fa. Zhou Fa claimed to be the inheritor of a certain sovereign and founded the Black Sword Court. He acted mysteriously. Could it be that the inheritance he obtained was that Dark Sovereign? Now, that Dark Sovereign is about to make a comeback, and there is no sovereign in the Kunlun Origin Court. You geniuses are competing for the qualifications of sovereigns, but this process will take a long time, Luan Summit sighed. Luan Feng sighed, and Zhou Xuanji fell into deep thought. Seeing him worrying about the country and the people, Luan Summit shook his head with a smile and said, "Well, this matter is still too far away for you. Even if the sky falls, we seniors will hold it up. I will teach you the fate manifestation technique first." Zhou Xuanji nodded and sat up straight. Luan Summit raised his right hand and pointed his index finger at Zhou Xuanji's forehead. In an instant, the soul source orb directly came out of his forehead, trembling nonstop. It looked very ferocious. Luan Summit narrowed his eyes and thought, "What's wrong with this soul source orb?" He had seen the soul source orb before. It was one of the 3 supreme treasures of the Kunlun Origin Court. It was rarely used as a personal artifact. This soul source orb was extremely aggressive. In the face of his power, it could automatically resist it. What did this kid do to the soul source orb to make it so loyal and ruthless? Zhou Xuanji felt a huge amount of memories pouring into his mind. He closed his eyes and inherited the fate manifestation technique. He saw his past and present lives. He saw the past and present lives of his family members. He was like a spectator, looking forward to everyone's fate. The process was sometimes fast and sometimes slow. Chapter 803. Fate. It was illusory and hard to define. Everyone has a destiny, and everyone can also have no destiny. However, the rules of fate were real. The higher one's cultivation, the more reverence one had for fate. In the process of learning the destiny manifestation technique, Zhou Xuanji gained much enlightenment. All the choices made in one's life were linked together. The result was karma. That was fate. The fate manifestation technique could pluck the stars and move the moon. It could pluck the fate of everyone, reliving the nightmares of the past. It could also bring forward the death tribulation from the future. In the process of inheriting the destiny manifestation technique, heaven and earth Tao, energy, and spirit Qi madly flowed towards Zhou Xuanji. The greatly divine suppressor art operated on its own as the invading body greedily devoured the external energy, perfectly transforming it into Yuan fusion divine power. Luan Feng sat on the opposite side of the stone table, quietly observing. What kind of physique is this? Isn't this conversion speed a little too exaggerated? Luan Hao's eyes widened in shock, and he even swallowed his saliva. He was filled with anticipation for Zhou Xuanji, but only now did he realize that he had underestimated this brat. He could not help but look forward to Zhou Xuanji even more. This kid could very well be the next supreme martial artist. Kunlun Origin Court, Void Boundary Palace. Inside the palace at the top of the tower, Zhou Fa sat on the throne to recover from his injuries. Ever since he made an agreement with Zhou Xuanji, he had been hiding here to recover. However, Exalt Crimson Dust's power was simply too domineering. He was unable to suppress that power at all. Right now, his cultivation was far from 1% of his peak. If he was helpless, he would definitely be exhausted to death. A black silhouette appeared in the palace and half knelt on the ground. He cupped his fist and said, "The competition for the divine ability has ended. Just as you expected, Zhou Xuanji defeated Yuan Ruzhen, young heavenly lord, and the other geniuses to obtain the divine ability inheritance." Hearing this, Zhou Fa opened his eyes, his gaze cold and sharp. He already knew that Zhou Xuanji had rescued Zhou Tianhua. Although he didn't see Xian Xianghua, It meant that Zhou Xuanji had already seen mortal sovereign. But from the beginning to the end, Zhou Xuanji did not look for him. It was obvious that the agreement was just a bluff. This guy still had the time to fight for the inheritance of a mighty figure's divine ability. No, he couldn't just sit and wait for death. He stood up slowly and said, "Inform Daohu that I've agreed to what he discussed with me earlier." Yes. The black shadow disappeared. Zhou Fa took a deep breath. His eyes turned pitch black as he muttered, "If the Kunlun Origin Court doesn't belong to me, no one can think of getting it." In a space of absolute darkness, a red light suddenly lit up. It was eerie and frightening. Vaguely, there was the sound of dripping water. A golden figure suddenly dashed out of the darkness and flew toward the red light. This golden figure was none other than the Origin Court war god. His face was expressionless, and his brows were tightly knitted, emitting a strong sense of oppression. Soon he stopped, knelt down, and cupped his fists. "Father," Origin Court war god said in a deep voice. His expression was complicated. The red light flickered like a flickering candle in the dark night, as if it could be extinguished at any time. "My son, you have been in the Kunlun Origin Court for 800 million years. Now that you have become the Origin Court war god, will your heart still belong to me?" A hoarse and ancient voice came from the front. The tone was cold and emotionless. "Origin Court war god replied, 'My heart will always belong to my father, and I will not hesitate to die for him.'" He paused, gritted his teeth, and begged, "I have friends and disciples in the Kunlun Origin Court. Can you spare their lives?" As soon as he finished speaking, the dark space fell into silence. Origin Court war god felt endless pressure. His burly body began to tremble. In the Kunlun Origin Court, the fearless Origin Court war god was like a kitten at this moment, shivering. If anyone were to see this, their eyes would probably explode in shock. "Forget it. Considering that you have been lonely since you were a child, your father has indeed not treated you well. When the time comes, bring the people you want to keep alive with you. This Kunlun Origin Court must be destroyed. Your father will create a brand new divine court of laws and create stronger beings." The ancient voice sounded very domineering. He didn't put the Kunlun Origin Court in his eyes at all. "Understood," Origin Court war god responded. His furrowed brows finally relaxed. "You have been dormant in the Kunlun Origin Court for so long. The credit for letting the current sovereign leave is mainly due to you. Have you observed who will become the next sovereign?" The ancient voice continued to ask. Origin Court war god hesitated and said, "It is possible among the sovereign divine ranges. For example, Venerable Emperor Divine ranges Yuan Ruzhen. He was an Origin Court war god like me in his previous life. Another example is the reincarnation of Tianyi Divine ranges rules. It is said that he has become the most powerful existence in the Tianyi Divine range, and Origin Court war god listed all the people he thought were likely to become sovereigns. He didn't mention Zhou Xuanji. It wasn't to protect Zhou Xuanji, but in his opinion, Zhou Xuanji really wasn't qualified. Zhou Xuanji's talent might be amazing, but his growth time was too short. Kill them if you have a chance. Go back. It won't be long before Father breaks through the shackles and returns to the Kunlun universe. In the future, you will become the sovereign. Father will continue to explore more possibilities, the ancient voice sounded. Origin Court war god wasn't surprised at all. He bowed expressionlessly before turning around and leaving. Zhou Xuanji wandered back and forth in the scenes of destiny. He had obtained the cultivation method of the destiny manifestation technique. His exalted body was constantly absorbing destiny factors, allowing him to quickly learn the destiny manifestation technique. Everyone had destiny factors in them. If someone else's destiny factors were controlled in the palm of their hand, it was equivalent to controlling their destiny. After all, destiny factors were connected to destiny. One would prosper and the other would prosper. It took him some time to master the destiny manifestation technique. When he opened his eyes again, the scenes of destiny around him all shattered like glass. The wheel's summit appeared before his eyes. The sky was high and the earth was far away. Green mountains and clear waters. Reality was more beautiful. Not bad. You mastered the destiny manifestation technique so quickly. I didn't choose the wrong person, Luan Feng praised. Luan Feng praised with a tone filled with admiration. Only a genius like Zhou Xuanji could shine with the destiny manifestation technique. He was looking forward to what kind of waves the destiny manifestation technique would cause in the Kunlun Origin Court. Zhou Xuanji took a deep breath, cupped his fist, and bowed, saying, "Thank you, senior." After learning the destiny manifestation technique, Luan Feng could be considered half a teacher to him. He should bow. Go out. There's a guy waiting for you outside. You'd better avoid him. He's very powerful, Luan Feng said with a smile, stroking his long beard. Zhou Xuanji nodded and was about to leave. Just when he turned around, he suddenly thought of something. He turned back and asked, "Don't you have anything to tell me? Was there such a good person in the world who would give divine abilities to others for free?" Luan Feng saw through his thoughts and said with a smile, "I just don't want the destiny manifestation technique to be passed down. This technique has great potential. I hope you can surpass me in this technique." Zhou Xuanji fell into deep thought. Could it be related to the Darkness Sovereign? Why does Luan Feng sound like he's leaving a will? Chapter 804. Zhou Xuanji thought for a while and hesitated no more. With a flash, he traveled through space and jumped out of the small world. Luan Feng clicked his tongue in wonder and sighed. Just what kind of physique does this brat have to actually be able to jump out of my spirit formation world? It will amazing. Zhou Xuanji quickly entered the chaotic universe. He did not leave immediately. Instead, he looked around. Soon, he caught a glimpse of Yuan Ruzhen. Yuan Ruzhen, who was sitting cross-legged on the shell, opened his eyes. When he saw him, he immediately stood up. "Zhou Xuanji, you came out so quickly. Seems like you haven't learned it yet." Yuan Ruzhen grinned and laughed coldly. His eyes emitted a terrifying killing intent. Zhou Xuanji took out the Yuxing broken sword and the previous life dream realization sword and fused the two swords into sundering circle. At the same time, he flipped his left hand and the great destiny of moon appeared in his hand. Both swords were very long. One was like a crescent moon and the other was like a rainbow. With both swords in hand, his aura exploded. The corners of his mouth curled up and he laughed contemptuously. "You can't wait to come out and kill a dog. May I ask if this dog of yours is ready to be slaughtered?" Hearing this, Yuan Ruzhen's expression changed, and his eyes turned red. Wisps of strange black gas rose from the soles of his feet and twined around his body like a tornado, causing his robe to flutter loudly. "Very good. I haven't seen anyone who dares to speak to me like this in a long time. They are all dead. You will follow in their footsteps and die a more painful death than them." Yuan Ruzhen raised his hand and a long scythe appeared in his hand. There was a loud bang. He charged toward Zhou Xuanji explosively, and the shell under his feet shattered in an instant. Zhou Xuanji directly activated the sword fusion technique and charged forward with his sword. Clang! The two of them collided with each other and erupted with all their strength, forcing each other back. They didn't stop and continued to attack each other. Zhou Xuanji swung his swords with both hands, simultaneously unleashing two sword divine abilities, and he continuously switched between them. Ultimate Chaos Dao, Heavenly Sword Descent, Sword Soul, Great Enlightenment God Slash, Void Instant Kill, Evil Spirit Retribution, Sword Sect Immortal Ghost Weep. Facing Zhou Xuanji's ferocious attacks, Yuan Ruzhen's attacks were equally ferocious. His fury surpassed Zhou Xuanji's. The more powerful Zhou Xuanji was, the more furious he became. Who was he? The number one genius of the revered Emperor Divine range was once the Origin Court War God, second only to one and above all. How could he be suppressed by a junior like Zhou Xuanji? Boom! Yuan Ruzhen shook his arms, and his aura rose to a whole new level, shaking the entire universe. Chaos chi was swept up and swept across the entire universe like a destructive tornado. The soul source orb opened between Zhou Xuanji's eyebrows as he cast the exterminating divine light. His eyes and the soul source orb shot out the exterminating divine light at the same time. 3 rays of light shot out. Yuan Ruzhen could not dodge in time and was hit in the face. Instantly, he could not move. Zhou Xuanji came up to him with a single step and stabbed out with both swords, piercing through his shoulders. Slaying life-breaking circle and glorious destiny moon suppressed Yuan Ruzhen as they smashed through the universe space. They fell into the chaotic flow of time. Zhou Xuanji drew his sword and slashed again. Yuan Ruzhen was, after all, the reincarnation of the god of war. He was not completely defeated. With a shake of his body, he teleported 1,000 feet away. His face contorted in anger. He waved his scythe fiercely and slashed down. His killing intent soared into the sky and tore apart the space-time electric currents around him. Zhou Xuanji laughed mockingly, and a silver radiance emanated from his body. Space-time power. His ultimate invasive body was cultivated in the chaotic flow of time, so he could absorb the space-time power. This was also the reason why he moved the battlefield here. At this moment, he seemed to have entered the divine moon state again. His aura was majestic. Yuan Ruzhen let out a furious roar. The black chi around his body turned into black flames and attached to the surface of his body. The flames quickly formed into an armor, and 3 pairs of black flaming wings grew out from his back. He charged over with his scythe, and the flames on his body turned into a horrifying dragon head. It expanded rapidly and charged at Zhou Xuanji with an unstoppable roar. Countless sword chi burst out from Zhou Xuanji's body, sweeping in all directions like a powerful beam. Boom! The black flaming dragon head exploded. Zhou Xuanji and Yuan Ruzhen tore apart the black flames and clashed again. Both swords moved like the wind. Zhou Xuanji's sword speed reached its limit, as though there were countless sword shadows following him. Yuan Ruzhen's movements were equally swift and fierce. The two were evenly matched. As they battled, they moved around, trying to find each other's flaws. Clang! The blades clashed. The two plunged into the chaotic flow of time and came to a peaceful universe. Boom! 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 With the arrival of the two, the universe began to collapse. They fought boldly and fearlessly. They only had eyes for each other and swore to kill each other. Is that all you've got? Zhou Xuanji mocked. His black hair danced wildly. Together with his purple pupils and the soul source orb between his brows, his body was filled with a frenzied aura. Yuan Ruzhen was equally frenzied, but he looked more ruthless. He roared and grew taller. With a sweep of his blade, he sent Zhou Xuanji flying away. Zhou Xuanji felt numb between his thumb and forefinger. How did this guy's strength suddenly increase so much? Roar! The frenzied Yuan Ruzhen was like an ancient, ferocious beast. He roared with all his might as his body grew taller rapidly. More than 1,000 feet, more than 100,000 feet. Zhou Xuanji activated the Emperor's Way 1,000-hand sword Buddha. A majestic sword Buddha rose up quickly. Zhou Xuanji stood on top of the Buddha's head and looked at Yuan Ruzhen. The golden Buddha grew to 1,000,000 feet tall and looked down at Yuan Ruzhen. Thousands of arms grew out from its back, each holding a giant golden sword, and slashed at Yuan Ruzhen. Clang! 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 Yuan Ruzhen was forced back by the slashes. His body was extremely tough, and the 1,000-hand sword Buddha could not break through his defense. I should be the one asking you. Is that all you've got? Yuan Ruzhen laughed wildly. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji could not hurt him despite using all his strength, he felt extremely pleased. Zhou Xuanji suddenly fused with the 1,000-hand sword Buddha. The 1,000-hand sword Buddha's body glowed with a layer of silver light. He activated the Fate manifestation technique straight away. Yuan Ruzhen's past, present, and future appeared before his eyes. He saw Yuan Ruzhen's majestic figure in high spirits. He saw Yuan Ruzhen trembling and begging for mercy in front of a black shadow. He quickly manifested the death tribulation in the future. Yuan Ruzin's heart beat wildly. He even felt his scalp go numb, and his soul shuddered. What's going on? Yuan Ruzin was a little flustered. Zhou Xuanji did not let him sense the dangerous aura of death. Why was he so restless after breaking through? Could there be a powerful enemy nearby? He immediately retreated and looked around anxiously. The thousand-hand sword Buddha gave a strange, cold smile. A black vortex appeared above Yuan Ruzin's head. A horrifying black shadow descended and pressed down on Yuan Ruzin. Yuan Ruzin wanted to dodge, but found that he could not move. His legs could not take the pressure, and he knelt down. He looked at the horrifying black shadow in fear. What is this? An indescribable fear welled up in his heart. His body trembled continuously. Chapter 805. Who are you? Yuan Ruzin raised his head and cried out in fear. Countless guesses appeared in his mind. Could it be an enemy? The black shadow was expressionless. He looked down at him without saying a word, but that aura could not be dispersed. It suppressed him so that he could not stand up. Zhou Xuanji sighed in amazement in his heart. The destiny manifestation spell was indeed powerful. It could really manifest destiny. Seeing Yuan Ruzin kneeling and trembling, Zhou Xuanji felt exhilarated in his heart. At the same time, he was curious about the black shadow. Although he did not sense the black shadow's aura, he could sense that the black shadow was ridiculously powerful. After all, even he could not defeat Yuan Ruzin, let alone kneeling and begging for mercy. Could this black shadow be the darkness sovereign that Luan Fo mentioned? From the looks of it, it was indeed possible. Just as Zhou Xuanji was thinking, the black shadow suddenly raised his hand and slapped toward Yuan Ruzin. Yuan Ruzin's body convulsed. A mouthful of blood spurted from his mouth and turned into a blood mist in the void. He collapsed and floated in the void. The black shadow disappeared along with the black vortex. That's it. Zhou Xuanji was astonished. He did not expect this. Wasn't the destiny manifestation spell a little too powerful? Yuan Ruzin could not resist at all. He was crushed directly. The thousand-hand sword Buddha disappeared. Zhou Xuanji flew over with his two swords to check if Yuan Ruzin was dead. At this moment, Yuan Ruzin got up suddenly and cried out in fear, "Don't come over! Don't come over! I beg you to spare me!" He roared at the top of his voice. Tears flowed from his eyes, and his face was covered in cold sweat. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. Taking this opportunity, Yuan Ruzin immediately turned around and fled, disappearing into the darkness in the blink of an eye. Crazy? Zhou Xuanji did not know whether to laugh or cry. He did not chase after him because Yuan Ruzin was too fast. During the battle, he had absorbed much of Yuan Ruzin's Origin Fusion Divine power. He was getting closer and closer to Origin Fusion Divine, Lord Erming. He immediately sat down to recuperate his cultivation. The entire universe regained its peace, but the collapsed space could not be restored in a short period of time. At a glance, it was like a beautiful starry sky painting that had countless cracks cut into it. It was very unnatural. Time ticked by. Zhou Xuanji benefited a lot from the battle with Yuan Ruzin. He could finally fight to his heart's content with an existence of equal strength. He also had a rough estimate of his own strength, but it was still not enough. He had to become even stronger before he could face the arrival of the Dark Sovereign. Just as he was cultivating, a cloud of black gas quietly swept towards his back. Clang! The great destiny moon descended from above and shielded Zhou Xuanji's back. The blade trembled and gave off a clear sound. Zhou Xuanji looked back, and two rays of exterminating divine light enveloped the ball of black qi, making it unable to move. "Tell me your name." He spoke expressionlessly. This ball of black energy was not a living being. It should have been formed by some kind of divine art. It did not have any life force. However, wasn't it looking down on him too much if he wanted to use it to launch a sneak attack? A weathered voice came from the black smoke. "You've learned Fate Manifestation? It can actually manifest my future power." Zhou Xuanji heard and raised his brow slightly. Could it be that this guy was the black shadow that suppressed Yuan Ruzin just now? That's right. But I'm curious who you are. Are you that Dark Sovereign? Zhou Xuanji asked straightforwardly. The other party did not come in person. Obviously, there was something restricting him. According to Luan Feng, the Dark Sovereign was arrogant and cruel. He had a deep-rooted hatred for the Kunlun Origin Court. If he could rush to the Kunlun Origin Court, he would not waste even a second. Oh, you know me? Since you know it's me, aren't you afraid? The weathered voice asked back. Its tone turned cold, and the killing intent made the temperature of the universe drop to the freezing point. A chill rose from the soles of Zhou Xuanji's feet and rushed up to the top of his head. Zhou Xuanji could not help but feel a sense of fear. He could not help but feel shocked. How powerful was this guy? Just a single sentence made him unable to restrain his emotions. After all, he was someone who had met the Dark Sovereign. What's the use of being afraid? He asked back, pretending to be calm. He could only bet that the other party had no way to kill him. No wonder Luan Feng looked like he was facing a great disaster. The Dark Sovereign was really terrifying. I'm very interested in you. When I come to the Kunlun Origin Court, I hope you are still alive. At that time, show me the Destiny Manifestation technique again, the Dark Sovereign said with a cold smile. Just as he finished speaking, the black chi dissipated into thin air, breaking through the suppression of the exterminating divine light. Zhou Xuanji suffered backlash. A mouthful of blood gushed up his throat. He wanted to swallow it, but he couldn't stop it. Red blood flowed down the corner of his mouth. He swallowed, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and fell into silence. He was thinking about how powerful the Dark Sovereign was. Was it a spell that came out of his mouth? He clearly did not feel the other party's attack, but he was severely injured. He sighed. There was always someone stronger in the world. It was not an empty saying. Compared with the Dark Sovereign, his current strength was not worth mentioning. Zhou Xuanji did not leave, but stayed to recuperate. The Dark Sovereign had already left. It was impossible for him to return. That was illogical. In the mortal space, Xian Xianghua and Mortal Sovereign were sitting face to face. She was in a state of epiphany as she listened to Mortal Sovereign preach. At this moment, Mortal Sovereign suddenly stopped preaching. Xian Xianghua's state of epiphany was interrupted. She opened her eyes in confusion and asked, "What's wrong?" Mortal Sovereign frowned and said, "Your husband is in trouble. He is being targeted by someone more powerful than me." Hearing this, Xian Xianghua's expression changed. She quickly asked, "Who is it? What happened?" Mortal Sovereign did not hide anything and told her about the origin of the Dark Sovereign. After listening, Xian Xianghua fell into silence. She was so shocked that she couldn't recover for a long time. She didn't expect there to be a sovereign who wanted to destroy the Kunlun Origin Court. According to Mortal Sovereign, the Dark Sovereign was definitely at the top of all the sovereigns in history. Can the current Kunlun Origin Court stop him? Xian Xianghua looked up and asked. She knew that the sovereign had disappeared and the Kunlun Origin Court was fighting for supremacy. Its strength must have been weakening. Mortal Sovereign shook his head and said, "Judging from the current situation, once he comes in, the Kunlun Origin Court will be destroyed." Xian Xianghua fell silent again. If so, it didn't matter whether the Dark Sovereign targeted Zhou Xuanji or not, because the Kunlun Origin Court would definitely be destroyed by him. Cultivate well. There is still hope before he comes in, Mortal Sovereign said. Autar Crimson Dust said. After she finished speaking, a red blur flew out from behind her and flashed by. Xian Xianghua was not surprised because she had seen Mortal Sovereign create a clone more than once. She didn't know why. In the void outside the mortal space, Dao Hu was floating in the air, waiting quietly with a calm look on his face. Chapter 806. A red shadow swept out from the mortal plane and landed in front of Dao Hu. Dao Hu immediately saluted and said, "Greetings, mortal supremacy. I wish you eternal life and immortality." His tone was respectful, and he didn't look directly at mortal supremacy. "Dao Hu, do you remember who gave you today's fortune?" Mortal Supremacy looked at Daohu disdainfully and asked casually. Daohu replied without hesitation, "It's you, Supremacy. If you hadn't given me cultivation techniques and magical powers, I would still be just a speck of dust in the crowd." He was a legend in the Kunlun Origin Court because his rise was too fast. When he debuted, Beast Sovereign had been the master of the evil sky divine range for many years, but he still caught up and even surpassed him. It was clear how terrifying his talent was. It was precisely because of this that he was able to win over countless die-hard followers and create the Daohu Qiuzuan, which terrified all divine ranges. You did a good job, but you were too eager for quick success. First, you killed your sworn brother, and then you wanted to bring down the Kunlun Origin Court. It was too fast. Now you've missed a good opportunity, Mortal Supremacy said as she turned and looked in another direction. Daohu lowered his head, his expression a little ugly. Killing his sworn brother was the shame of his life. If someone else had mentioned it, he would definitely have killed them. Now you still have a chance, and that is to replace a sovereign divine range. Remember, you must be careful of Origin Court War God and Zhou Fa. Their origins are very special, and you must not look at them the way you used to. Mortal Supremacy instructed, which made Daohu curious. He asked, "Can you tell me their origins?" He was very familiar with Zhou Fa and Origin Court War God. Zhou Fa had been trying to cooperate with him during this time and often sent people to find him. They were as annoying as flies. Origin Court War God was the strongest person under Supremacy. Of course, that was only the case on the surface. If all the experts of the Kunlun Origin Court were included, Origin Court War God wouldn't even be in the top 10 experts that Daohu knew. Zhou Fa is related to a certain Supremacy. That Supremacy is very mysterious and definitely doesn't have good intentions. Otherwise, he wouldn't have disturbed the Kunlun Origin Court. As for Origin Court War God, he seems to be absolutely loyal to the Kunlun Origin Court, but in fact, he's the biggest scourge. You should be more careful. Autar Crimson Dust flicked her sleeves. After saying that, she transformed into a red blur and flew towards the depths of the universe, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Daohu raised his head and frowned as he fell into deep thought. He was curious about the true identity of Origin Court War God. Origin Court War God had always been the spiritual leader of the Kunlun Origin Court. Now, Crimson Dust Supremacy actually said that he was the biggest scourge of the Kunlun Origin Court. Daohu couldn't help but think of the disappearance of Jizun. Could it be related to Origin Court War God? After the disappearance of Supremacy, Origin Court War God was indeed the most promising candidate to become Supremacy. However, things did not go as he wished. Various divine ranges erupted one after another, causing the Kunlun Origin Court to usher in a dark period. This is getting more and more interesting. Daohu muttered to himself with a horrified smile on his face. The more chaotic the Kunlun Origin Court was, the more excited he was. The more mysterious the enemy was, the more challenging it was for him. With that thought, he turned around and flew in another direction. After Zhou Xuanji recovered, he took out the Tri-Phoenix Qilin carriage and flew toward the Kunlun Origin Court. Along the way, he did not meet Yuan Ruzhen again. It seemed like that guy was really scared out of his mind. Inside the carriage, Zhou Xuanji was cultivating. The battle with Yuan Ruzhen gave him a lot of insights. In addition to the growth of his origin fusion divine energy, his cultivation was also improving. According to his own prediction, it wouldn't take long for him to break through to origin fusion divine Lord Erming. He didn't feel proud of his cultivation speed. On the contrary, he felt that it was very slow. After all, the Dark Sovereign had his eyes on him. He must do everything possible to become stronger. When he returned to the Kunlun Origin Court, there was killing everywhere. From Origin Fusion Divine Lord to Overlord Saint, everyone was fighting for themselves. There were even divine range battles. Countless creatures were colliding with each other. It was extremely spectacular. From a distance, it looked like the Big Bang of the universe. Zhou Xuanji saw all of this. He didn't stop and flew straight toward the evil sky divine range. The struggle for power and status existed everywhere. As long as it was a race with intelligence, it was inevitable that there would be a struggle between superiors and inferiors. After entering the evil Sky Divine range, he went straight to the Sovereign Palace. After entering the palace, he saw Beast Sovereign and told him about his previous experience. After listening to him, Beast Sovereign sighed with emotion and said, "You have really grown up. Even Yuan Ruzin was played in the palm of your hand. Although you have learned the destiny manifestation technique, it doesn't mean that you are invincible. Next time you meet Yuan Ruzin, you still have to be careful. He has the strength to sweep away Origin Fusion Divine Lords." Zhou Xuanji nodded. He also felt that Yuan Ruzin didn't use his full strength. Yuan Ruzin probably didn't expect the destiny manifestation technique to be so terrifying. "Do you have any other arrangements? If not, I have to prepare for closed-door cultivation. I have been targeted by the Dark Sovereign." Zhou Xuanji continued to talk about the Dark Sovereign. This was a catastrophe for the entire Kunlun Origin Court. He didn't need to hold it in. Dark Sovereign. Beast Sovereign's expression changed drastically. He tried to remain calm and patiently listened to Zhou Xuanji. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, "This is big trouble. I have heard of the terrifying legend of the Dark Sovereign when I was young. I didn't expect it to be true. Even a Peak-Wheel Realm Senior is so afraid of him. What should our evil Sky Divine range do?" Zhou Xuanji didn't answer. He didn't have an answer, nor did he have the right to plan the future of the evil Sky Divine range. After a while, Beast Sovereign asked him to leave. "By the way, is Wei Yi still in the Divine range?" Zhou Xuanji thought of something and asked. Beast Sovereign replied without hesitation, "He is out on a mission." His mind was full of thoughts about the Dark Sovereign, so he didn't guess why Zhou Xuanji asked such a question. Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes and left after hearing this. He had to find an opportunity to get rid of Wei Yi to avoid future trouble. Before meeting the Dark Sovereign, he wanted to cast a long line to catch a big fish. But now, he was afraid that Wei Yi would collude with the Dark Sovereign to deal with him. After leaving the Sovereign Palace, he flew toward pure sword heaven. On the way, he met an acquaintance, Ji Huanglin, the genius who had invited him to join the Evil Sky Divine Range. Ever since Zhou Xuanji joined the Evil Sky Divine Range, he rarely came to disturb Zhou Xuanji. At least, he wasn't as attentive as Wei Yi. "I haven't seen you for many years. You have already surpassed me and become an Origin Fusion Divine Lord. Congratulations," Ji Huanglin said with a smile, cupping his fists. His eyes were filled with surprise. He had always admired Zhou Xuanji. He was looking for an opportunity to talk to Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji nodded with a smile and asked, "How have you been recently?" Ji Huanglin's smile stiffened when he heard this. He sighed and waved his hand, saying, "Not bad. That's all. Let's talk next time. I'm in a hurry to finish my mission." Having said this, he left in a hurry. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. Why did this guy suddenly change his attitude? Is he really in trouble recently? Chapter 807. Pure Sword Heaven. Zhou Xuanji came to Jiang Shui's side and summoned Chang Xian to gather all the higher-ups of Emperor Sword Court. While waiting, Zhou Xuanji asked, "Have Jing Hong and the others already set off?" Jiang Shui nodded and said, "Miss Yin will personally escort them out of the Kunlun Origin Court. There shouldn't be any problems." She wanted to go out too, but Zhou Xuanji and Zhou Xiaoxian did not allow it. To Zhou Xuanji, he alone was enough. Jiang Shui could become more powerful, but it was not worth the risk. Zhou Xiaoxian thought so too. Moreover, Jiang Shui's identity was special. She might be captured by powerful enemies and used to threaten Zhou Xuanji. "I don't know where Ying Zhuge is. I haven't heard any news about him along the way." Zhou Xuanji sighed. After Xian Xianghua was taken away by Mortal Sovereign, Zhou Tanhua and Ying Zhuge chased after her. Zhou Tanhua was also taken away by Mortal Sovereign. Only Ying Zhuge wasn't. He had asked Hong Chun Supreme before, and she claimed that she hadn't captured Ying Zhuge. Perhaps Ying Zhuge was still searching for Zhou Tanhua and his mother somewhere in the Kunlun Origin Court. I hope nothing happens to him. Jiang Shui patted the back of his hand and comforted him. Don't worry, he isn't an ordinary genius. He was once an almighty of the Kunlun Origin Court in his previous life. It would be difficult for anyone to kill him. Zhou Xuanji nodded. It made sense to think that way. After a while, Daoya Old Man, Sheng Tiandao, Ren Niming, Huang Lianxin, the old beggar, Gu Tianxia, and the others arrived one after another. Is there something important? Daoya Old Man asked anxiously. Zhou Xuanji had finally returned, and they welcomed peace. Could there be another catastrophe? Zhou Xuanji nodded and told him about the Darkness Sovereign. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They had guessed all kinds of bad situations, but they had still been attacked by the Supreme of Darkness, a sovereign who wanted to destroy the Kunlun Origin Court. Just thinking about it made their scalps go numb. Do the Sovereign Divine Ranges and Super Divine Ranges know about this? Gu Tianxia asked with a frown. After coming to Pure Sword Heaven, he had been working hard to catch up with Zhou Xuanji. His aptitude was indeed amazing. He was already a Tao-treading saint and was about to break through to the Tao ancestor realm. But compared to Zhou Xuanji, his growth rate was nothing. Zhou Xuanji said, "You should know. On the way back, I found that the battles were even more intense. They probably want to unify the Kunlun Origin Court and then work together to fight against the Dark Sovereign. Right now, the Kunlun Origin Court was in a state of disunity. If they wanted to live in harmony, they couldn't just rely on negotiations. They had to have absolute strength to suppress the Kunlun Origin Court." Ren Niming rubbed his chin and said, "The Evil Sky Divine Range is not as strong as before. We have to make a foolproof plan for ourselves." The others thought hard as well. Sovereign Darkness wanted to destroy the entire Kunlun Origin Court. In other words, hiding was useless. The only way was to defeat the Darkness Sovereign. But the current Kunlun Origin Court didn't even have a supremacy, so how could they do it? The old beggar shook the wine pot and said with a smile, "When I was young, I had also heard of the legend of the Dark Sovereign. I didn't expect it to be true. If I could see his elegant demeanor with my own eyes, my life would be worth it." The others rolled their eyes. "You are worth it, but we don't think so. You should already have an idea, right?" Zhou looked at Zhou Xuanji and asked expectantly. The others also looked at Zhou Xuanji. Now, all of them had to rely on Zhou Xuanji. Even if they combined their strength, they wouldn't even be able to crush Zhou Xuanji's finger. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "Next, I will preach the Tao to you and try to improve your strength as much as possible. Anyone who has reached the Tao-treading saint realm can go out to train. This is your choice. I won't force you. When you are strong enough, go to the Kunlun Origin Court and find a suitable universe. At that time, I will use a divine ability to isolate that universe and establish a teleportation connection with Pure Sword Heaven. The most important thing is to cultivate and improve your strength." Everyone nodded. They all felt their blood boiling. They had been resting for so long. It was time to move. This was the most chaotic era, and it was also the era where heroes were most likely to emerge. They wanted to support Zhou Xuanji as the sovereign, and the sovereign's subordinates couldn't be too weak. Zhou Xuanji continued to arrange his cultivation schedule. In addition to cultivation, he also needed to work on his divine abilities and mental state. He was not afraid of Beast Sovereign hearing him. After all, Beast Sovereign also hoped that he could become a supreme. If he became a sovereign, he would definitely be an existence that Beast Sovereign couldn't control. Him being able to help and protect the Evil Sky Divine Range was the greatest repayment, just like the Tiani Divine Range and the previous sovereign. Inside the Sovereign Palace, Beast Sovereign summoned hundreds of Evil Sky Divine Guards. The Evil Sky Divine Range had been in turmoil all these years, and more than half of the 3,000 Evil Sky Divine Guards had died. Go to the Evil Sky Divine Range and invite all the ancestral patriarchs, mighty figures, and eternal prodigies back. Just say that the Darkness Supremacy is making a comeback." Beast Sovereign waved his hand domineeringly. He had never given such an order before. The threat posed by the Darkness Supremacy far surpassed that of the evil sky divine range. Moreover, if it was just the crisis of the divine ranges, he wouldn't be able to invite those old ancestors. However, if it was related to the survival of the Kunlun origin court, even the most indifferent almighty would be scared. Yes, the evil sky divine guards accepted the order and disappeared from the hall. Beast Sovereign's eyes flickered. He suddenly got up and disappeared. Meanwhile, all the middle upper divine ranges learned about the darkness supremacy. For a moment, the atmosphere of the entire Kunlun origin court became more and more tense. Zhou Xuanji ignored the affairs of the world and focused on cultivation. He also helped Pure Sword Heaven preach. The atmosphere of Pure Sword Heaven was positive. Everyone was working hard on cultivation, including Chang Xian. Zhou Tanhua often looked for Zhou Xuanji to spar with. Zhou Xuanji was also happy to see this. He discovered that this kid actually had a very good talent in Sword Dao. He wasn't any weaker than Zhou Xiaoxian. Coupled with the exterminating divine eyes, this kid might really be able to catch up to him. Zhou Tanhua fought his father with all his strength for the first time. He finally realized how terrifying his father was. No matter how he attacked, Zhou Xuanji didn't move at all. Zhou Xuanji bounced him away invisibly. Zhou Tanhua was so shocked that he almost became autistic. Fortunately, Zhou Xuanji had been giving him pointers during this process, steadily improving his actual combat ability. In the blink of an eye, 2 years passed. On this day, Namu Tianyi sent a voice transmission to Zhou Xuanji, inviting him out to meet him. Zhou Xuanji gave a few instructions to Zhou Tanhua and Zhou Xiaoxian, who were cultivating in front of him, before quickly leaving. After leaving the evil sky divine range, he traveled through space and arrived at the void boundary. This was his request. The two had to go to the void boundary to meet. In the void boundary, most divine senses could be isolated. "What's the matter?" asked Zhou Xuanji, looking at the figure behind Namatiani. This person was wearing a noble blue robe. He was tall, had sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, and a jade-like face. His eyes were brimming with vigor. At first glance, one could tell that he wasn't simple. Namatiani replied, "Naturally, it's for the darkness supremacy. Let me introduce you to the person behind me." Chapter 808. His name is Wangbu Ao, and he is known as the Great Sage Guang Fa Haoranzun. He is the strongest heaven's pride in our Tianyi divine range. He rarely shows himself, so you might not have heard of him. Namatiani introduced calmly. Having heard this, Wang Buao cupped his fist and bowed to Zhou Xuanji. He smiled and said, "The branch lord said that you are the most likely to become the sovereign. Now that I have seen you, you are indeed extraordinary. You have already mastered the legendary inverse chaos divine ability, right? I can sense a special fluctuation of rules around you." Zhou Xuanji nodded and asked with a smile, "How much is the difference between young heavenly lord and you?" The young heavenly lord was very strong, and almost no one in the same generation could match him. Wangbu Ao's lips curled up in a smile. "He's my disciple. Of course, he's arrogant and has always wanted to surpass me, but it's impossible for him to surpass me." Over the years, young heavenly lord had always been the strongest in the Tianyi divine range on the surface, but the older creatures all knew that Wang Buao was the strongest. Namatiani smiled and said, "Don't look down on him just because he's a proud son of heaven. He once nearly killed Daohu by himself. His strength cannot be underestimated. Even I don't know how many trump cards he has." Zhou Xuanji could not help but look at Wang Buao in awe. He asked curiously, "What does bringing him to see me have to do with the darkness sovereign?" Before Namatiani could reply, Wang Buao spoke first. "I know my personality. If the sovereign of darkness appears, I will definitely challenge him. Therefore, I hope that you can use the fate manifestation technique on me. Let me experience the terror of the sovereign of darkness in advance." His eyes were filled with eagerness and excitement. Namatian nodded and said, "He'll be one of our forces against the darkness sovereign. As for you, your top priority is to cultivate properly. Once we've defeated the darkness sovereign, if you're able to mature, Then we'll be able to help you rise to the top. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. Why did it sound so touching? However, he was still cautious and did not completely believe him. He looked at Wang Bu Ao and asked, "Are you ready?" Wang Bu Ao twisted his neck and said with a smile, "Come on." He couldn't wait to experience the power of the Darkness Sovereign. Zhou Xuanji immediately cast the Destiny Manifestation Technique, gathering the destiny factors in Wang Buao's body and prying into his past and future. Countless scenes flowed into Zhou Xuanji's mind. He was the first to see an image. The young Wang Bu Ao knelt at the foot of the 10,000 stone steps, kowtowing incessantly. His forehead was badly mutilated. Meanwhile, a figure stood at the top of the stone stairs. He was as imposing as a divine mountain, and with the blazing sun on his back, his aura was magnificent. "You don't deserve to be my disciple." The imposing figure spoke in an overbearing manner. His voice was like a thunderclap that resounded through the heavens and the earth. Zhou Xuanji looked over with a strange expression. Isn't this Origin Court war god? He actually rejected Wang Bu Ao. Following this, Zhou Xuanji looked toward Wang Buao's future. As expected, Wang Bu Ao's death calamity was also a darkness sovereign. In a broken universe, countless corpses floated in the air. Wang Bu Ao, who was covered in blood, rushed towards a huge black shadow, roaring at the top of his lungs. The huge black shadow raised its palm and waved it lightly, turning Wang Bu Ao into dust. Peerlessly powerful, Wang Bu Ao was as weak as a speck of dust in front of Paragon Darkness. All of this seemed to have taken a lot of time, but in reality, only an instant had passed. Zhou Xuanji revealed Wang Buao's future death tribulation. Black clouds gathered above Wang Buao's head. It was a horrifying scene. Namatiani looked up with a curious look. Wang Bu Ao flew far away and faced his death tribulation alone. Soon, he was enveloped by an indescribable might, and he could not move. "This is the aura of the Darkness Sovereign," Wang Bu Ao mumbled to himself with a deep frown. His excitement receded and was replaced by uneasiness. Namatiani frowned as well. Looking at Zhou Xuanji in surprise, he asked, "Can the tribulation revealed by the Destiny Manifestation Technique be fully revealed?" Zhou Xuanji shook his head and replied, "This is related to my strength. How can I fully reveal the might of the Darkness Sovereign?" In other words, this phenomenon could not be compared to the Darkness Sovereign. A tall and imposing black shadow descended from the black clouds. He raised his right palm and slapped toward Wang Bu Ao. Wang Bu Ao's face turned pale, and he was forced to his knees by the slap. This scene was so similar to the one that had happened before. Namatiani fell silent. Zhou Xuanji was speechless. How powerful was the Darkness Sovereign? He could display the invincibility of the Darkness Sovereign just by using the Destiny Manifestation Technique. Hold on, wouldn't that mean that everyone would die at the hands of the Darkness Sovereign in the future? Everyone might face this tribulation. Wouldn't he be able to use this tribulation to kill all the powerful enemies he might encounter in the future? Zhou Xuanji's eyes brightened. The more he thought about it, the more feasible he felt. This was definitely a good idea. Zhou Xuanji raised the corner of his lips, concealing his strength and fame. Soon, the black clouds dispersed, and the Darkness Sovereign's shadow disappeared, never to be seen again. Wang Bu Ao was still kneeling in the void, covered in cold sweat. He could not come back to his senses even after a long while. Namatiani looked at Zhou Xuanji and sighed in amazement. With this divine ability and the inverse chaos divine ability, your future is limitless. He had already expected what Zhou Xuanji was thinking. Looking at what happened to Wang Bu Ao, Zhou Xuanji already had the qualifications to be invincible. When his cultivations soared again, who in the Kunlun Origin Court could be his match? He would be equivalent to the Darkness Sovereign. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, "It's nothing. Apart from this, do you have anything else?" Namatiani came personally not just to let Wang Bu Ao test the Darkness Sovereign strength. Namatiani said in a deep voice. Naturally, it's to discuss the future development. Without waiting for Zhou Xuanji to answer, he continued. The evil sky divine range is definitely unreliable. Beast Sovereign got the help of Origin Court War God and became arrogant. But Origin Court War God has disappeared, and the evil sky divine range has declined. If you stay in the evil sky divine range, you will only be cannon fodder when facing the darkness sovereign in the future. Come to our Tiani divine range, or find a plane to hide and cultivate in peace. Only then can you grow, Namatiani said seriously. Namatiani said seriously. He despised Beast Sovereign from the bottom of his heart. Back then, before Zhou Xuanji had fully grown, Beast Sovereign had sent Zhou Xuanji to compete for the sovereign list. If Zhou Xuanji hadn't run into him, but other divine range masters, he would have died without a doubt. In his opinion, Beast Sovereign thought too highly of Zhou Xuanji. It could even be said that he relied on Zhou Xuanji too much. He wanted to spoil things through excessive enthusiasm. Zhou Xuanji would die sooner or later in Beast Sovereign's hands. Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes and didn't answer. He also had such considerations. He had already saved the evil sky divine range, and even stopped other divine ranges from attacking the evil sky divine range. Even if he left now, he had done his best. It was just that he was worried that the evil sky divine range would face a catastrophe after he left. Namutiani stared at him and said seriously, "You are going to become the sovereign. At that time, the entire Kunlun Origin Court and tens of thousands of divine ranges will have to bow down to you. Is a mere evil sky divine range worthy of you?" You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.